Chapter 852. At this moment, the world was in complete silence. Even the sound of breathing and heartbeat seemed to have stopped. Awakening the Nine Dragons bloodline with a drop of the Nine Dragons blood essence is indeed amazing. You can actually use a trace of the divine Nine Dragon Cauldron's power to block my palm. At this moment, the incomparably imposing voice from the heavens sounded again. However, how much power can a mere sea of soul realm cultivator bring out of the divine Nine Dragon Cauldron? How can you really stop me? Break. As the last word of break was heard, the palm shook slightly and a palm force several times stronger than before burst out. Boom. This time, the whole world seemed to be shaking. The sky and the earth within 100,000 miles were shaking. The divine Nine Dragon Cauldron was the first to bear the brunt of the impact and let out a loud explosion. The Nine Dragons bloodline wrapped around the divine Nine Dragon Cauldron wailed and turned into a beam of bloodlight rushing into Lu Ming's forehead. Crack! Lu Ming's body shook violently as if it was about to explode. At this moment, lightning appeared on Lu Ming's forehead. The lightning cauldron swam around Lu Ming's body, preventing Lu Ming from being smashed into pieces. It was the lightning cauldron in his sea of consciousness. Dom. In the sky, the divine Nine Dragon Cauldron shook, and then split into 9, turning back into 9 lightning cauldrons. At this moment, without the Nine Dragons bloodline, and under the powerful attack, the connection between the 9 divine cauldrons seemed to have disappeared. They shook and then flew away in all directions, returning to the dragon heads of the 9 dragon veins. After the divine Nine Dragon Cauldron flew away, the huge palm continued to fall. Lu Ming could not resist at all. He spat out mouthfuls of blood, as if he was going to be turned into ashes under this palm. Dang! At this moment, Lu Ming's forehead glowed, and a lightning cauldron rushed out automatically, turning into the size of a mountain. Why? Why is there another lightning cauldron? Countless people were dumbfounded. They could not believe it. You do have a lot of secret treasures, but how can you stop me? The palm pressed down, slamming into the lightning cauldron. The lightning cauldron trembled, and lightning flashed in all directions. In the end, the lightning cauldron was unable to withstand the force of the palm and was sent flying back into Lu Ming's forehead. Lu Ming's body shook violently as if he had been hit by an ancient divine mountain. His body fell like a cannonball. Rumble! Martial Emperor Di's palm prince did not stop and continued to fall. However, at that moment, Lu Ming's falling body suddenly emitted rays of golden light. When the golden light spread, Lu Ming's body stopped falling. Wong! The area between Lu Ming's eyebrows shone brightly. A huge palace floated out and dashed upward. Countless people almost bit off their tongues. There were too many treasures in Lu Ming's body. They flew out one after another, and each one was incomparably terrifying. Was he still human? There's someone below the palace. Someone exclaimed. The palace that flew out from between Lu Ming's eyebrows rapidly expanded. Below the palace, there was an indomitable figure. Senior 9 sons. Lu Ming's heart shook violently. That palace was the Temple of Paragon, and the silhouette below it was Paragon Joyang. Mas, Master. When the figure appeared, Yen Kuangtu shouted in disbelief. At the same time, the 6 supremes and many spiritual gods widened their eyes in disbelief. 9 sons destroy the world. Supreme 9 sons said. Suddenly, 9 suns appeared around the Temple of Paragon. The 9 suns were like real suns in the sky, emitting endless light. The 9 suns, together with the Temple of Paragon, collided with the huge palm print. There was an earth-shattering explosion. The space in that area was instantly crushed, revealing a dark and endless void that devoured the terrifying energy. Otherwise, The explosion of energy would have turned everything within 100,000 miles into ashes. Clang! The temple of Paragon trembled violently. It was supported by a tall figure and fell down. The giant palm seemed to have used up all its energy and collapsed because of the repeated obstructions. The light dissipated, and the 9 suns around the temple of Paragon disappeared. Supreme 9 Suns figure appeared clearly. Master, Yen Quangtu shouted. His body trembled slightly. He was extremely excited. Xia Jiang, is it really you? Didn't you die? The Jiang family patriarch shouted. The other Supremes and experts also looked at Supreme 9 Suns in disbelief. Many people of the younger generation also widened their eyes in shock. They couldn't believe it. Who didn't know the name Supreme 9 Suns? The 9 Suns bloodline was unparalleled in the world. When he was alive, he was the war god of Emperor Heaven Divine Palace. He was extremely powerful and was known as the strongest supreme in the eastern wilderness. Even emperors didn't dare to underestimate him. Such a peerless person had died more than 50 years ago. Many people were shocked and couldn't believe it. However, Emperor Di had announced it himself, so no one doubted it. But now, Supreme 9 Suns had appeared again and was helping Lu Ming against Emperor Di. What was going on? Quangtu, I haven't seen you for a few decades, and you've already grown so much. You're worthy of being my disciple. Supreme 9 Suns looked at Yen Quangtu and laughed. He was satisfied. Master, what happened back then? Why are you only left with a remnant soul? Where's your real body? Who harmed you? Yen Quangtu was extremely excited. He asked several questions in succession. The others were also very curious. Back then, Emperor Di had only announced the death of Supreme 9 Suns, but he hadn't said anything specific. Many people had been wondering about that for a few decades. Supreme 9 Suns was extremely powerful. Who could kill him? Even emperors wouldn't be able to kill Supreme 9 Suns easily. 9 Suns, you're only left with a remnant soul. Do you still want to betray your master? At that moment, a voice filled with pressure came from the huge spatial crack in the sky. As the voice faded, a middle-aged man stepped out from the spatial crack. The middle-aged man had a tall build. He stood in the sky with his hands behind his back. An imperious aura was emitted from him. Countless people felt like they were facing the universe when they saw the figure. Their hearts were filled with reverence, and they had the urge to kneel down and worship him. That was the imperious aura of a dominator. Greetings, Your Majesty. At that moment, countless people from all directions bowed. Their eyes were filled with admiration and reverence. Even Wan Tingting, Wang Haoxian, and the others did the same. Only the fatty stood straight, without moving. Emperor Di glanced around and nodded his head. Betray? Ha ha ha. Di, don't you think it's funny? Supreme 9 Suns burst out laughing. Countless people were shocked. Supreme 9 Suns had called Emperor Di by his name. It didn't seem like he was facing his own master. Why was that? However, no one said anything. If someone else had called Emperor Di by his name, someone would have jumped out and reprimanded him. However, it was Supreme 9 Suns who had spoken. He was also a supreme figure. Everyone chose to keep their mouths shut. Even the patriarchs of the 6 great ancient clans' eyes flickered. They didn't do anything. Chapter 853. At that moment, Lu Ming was in a bad state. His whole body was in pain, and he had a splitting headache. It was as if his soul was about to be torn apart. His vision turned black, and he was about to fall unconscious. Hold on. Lu Ming roared in his heart. Quangtu, don't you want to know who killed me? It's the famous martial emperor in front of you, your martial ancestor. Supremacy Jiuyang looked at Yen Kuangtu and said, his words were like thunder from the 9 heavens and an endless storm sweeping through the crowd. Countless people opened their eyes wide and looked at Supremacy Jiuyang and Martial Emperor Di. Their eyes were filled with disbelief. Supremacy Jiuyang had been killed by Martial Emperor Di. Now, only a wisp of his soul was left. What was going on? Supremacy Jiuyang was the god of war of the heavenly divine palace, the strongest supremacy of the Eastern Barren Territory. He had fought for the heavenly divine palace and made great contributions. Why did Martial Emperor Di want to kill him? Yen Kuangtu opened his eyes wide and said in disbelief, why? That's because he needs my bloodline. If he kills me, he'll be able to take my bloodline and use it to cultivate a technique. Supremacy Jiuyang's voice was heard. Now, everyone was even more shocked. The other 6 supremacy's eyes flickered, and they looked thoughtful. Martial Emperor Di kept his hands behind his back and looked calm. Jiuyang, back then, you colluded with the Corpse Emperor and tried to kill me. That's why I attacked you. It seems like you still hate me and want to slander me. At that moment, Martial Emperor Di's voice was heard again. Everyone was even more shocked. Back then, it was Supremacy Jiuyang who colluded with the Corpse Emperor to harm Martial Emperor Di. That's why Martial Emperor Di attacked Supremacy Jiuyang. How could there be such an inside story? Ha ha ha. Supremacy Jiuyang suddenly laughed and said, Di, you're an Emperor Realm expert. It's fine that you plotted against me, but you actually deceived me. Xia Jiuyang, was really blind back then. How could I have become your disciple? Xia Jiuyang, how dare you plot against His Majesty Martial Emperor? You deserve to die. Now that you dare to come back, I'll kill you. The patriarch of the Jiang clan shouted. The others looked at Supremacy Jiuyang. He. Supreme Nine Yang laughed coldly and did not explain further. He knew that there was no point in explaining. This was all because of strength. Emperor Di was an expert of the Emperor Path, a lofty existence. How strong was he? On that day, even if the Jiuyang Zunzun showed proof that Emperor Di had harmed him back then, the others wouldn't betray Emperor Di. They would stand on Emperor Di's side. This was because of strength. Who would betray Martial Emperor Di for a half-dead person? That would be stupid. If they left the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace, where would they find such a good cultivation environment and cultivation resources? Who would protect them? Moreover, Martial Emperor Di had already given him a reason. Jiuyang had colluded with the Heavenly Corpse Sex Corpse Emperor and wanted to kill him. That was why he was killed. Regardless of whether this reason was true or false, this reason was enough. Supreme Nine Yang knew this very well, so he didn't say anything else, nor did he try to explain. Without strength, what was the point of saying so much? Jiuyang, you only have a wisp of remnant soul left. You still want to fight me? Surrender now. Emperor Di said. Supreme Jiuyang smiled and did not respond. Instead, he looked at Yen Kuangtu and said, Kuangtu, do you believe me or Di? I believe in Master. Yen Kuangtu's eyes flashed with determination. Good. Haha, I was right about you. Next, I will block Di. You take Lu Ming and rush out. Remember, you must take Lu Ming and rush out. Supreme Nine Yang said. Master, let's go together. Yen Kuangtu shouted. Let's go. Supreme Nine Suns roared. His body emitted a dazzling light as 9 blazing suns appeared once again. A pair of evil disciples. You are indeed ambitious. Today, none of you can leave, shouted Emperor Di coldly. A supreme chi exploded from his body and shook the earth. Emperor Di stretched out his hand and pressed down. a gigantic hand formed and moved towards Yen Kuang-tu and the Nine Sons cultivator. "Take Lu Ming away," shouted Supreme Nine Sons. His body shone even brighter as he burned his soul. The supreme temple shook, and Nine Sons appeared, attacking the gigantic hand. Yen Kuang-tu shouted and turned into a three-legged golden crow. His pure qi wrapped around Lu Ming and rushed out. However, Emperor Di was too terrifying. His hand covered the sky and suppressed the space. The sky and the earth seemed to be covered by his hand. Boom! Supreme Nine Sons' supreme temple and Emperor Di's gigantic hand collided fiercely. The earth shook and the space was torn apart. It looked like the end of the world. Everyone in the area retreated one after another, within tens of thousands of kilometers. Only the 6 paragons remained. Yen Kuang-tu let out a long howl and opened his mouth to spit out a golden flame, divine sword. However, it was still blocked. Suddenly, a huge palm appeared in front of him and collided with the golden flame. Yen Kuang-tu's body trembled, and he was forced to retreat. Although Lu Ming was under Yen Kuang-tu's protection, he was still shaken by the aftershocks. His body was in more pain, and his vision turned black. "Break!" shouted Supreme Nine Sons furiously. The 9 Sons shone even brighter, completely suppressing the real sun in the sky. Supreme Nine Sons' body shone with a dazzling light. "Teacher!" shouted Yen Kuang-tu. Supreme Nine Sons was burning his soul. In the end, he might not even be able to protect his soul. "Evil disciple, suppress!" Emperor Di's eyes looked even colder. He waved his hand, and an even more terrifying palm attack was launched. Boom! The Supreme Divine Palace collided with the palm and shook violently. In the end, with a loud bang, a corner of the Supreme Divine Palace was blasted apart and shattered rocks flew everywhere. Supreme Nine Sons' body trembled violently. The golden crow cried and soared into the sky. The golden crow's fire turned into a dazzling sword light and collided with the hand. Explosions sounded continuously, and the sword light was destroyed. The golden crow's body trembled and fell down. At that moment, Lu Ming felt that the world was getting darker and darker. He looked at the battle in the sky, and then at the High-Lawn Ancient Garden. Then his vision darkened, and he fell into an endless darkness. His injuries were too severe. The 9 Dragons' bloodline had exploded 2 golden chakras, causing him to be severely injured. In addition, he had controlled the 9 Dragons' cauldron to fight against the Supremes. He had even exchanged a blow with Martial Emperor Di. His injuries were extremely severe. In the end, he could not hold on any longer and fainted. "Shao Qing, I'm too weak. I can't take you away." That was Lu Ming's last thought before he fainted. Lu Ming fainted, but the battle became more intense. Let's go. Chapter 854. However, Emperor Di was too strong. He had completely blocked their path. No matter how hard they tried, it was useless. Boom, boom. The Temple of Paragon and Emperor Di's palms collided with each other. The Temple of Paragon kept shaking. More and more places exploded. In the end, the entire Temple of Paragon cracked. "Ah, old bastard, why aren't you here yet? Are you doing this on purpose?" The fat guy in the crowd shouted, angrily. In the sky, Supreme Nine Sons and Yen Kuang-tu had joined forces to fight against Emperor Di. The people who were watching the battle, including the 6 Supremes, were astonished. Supremacy Jiuyang and Yen Kuang-tu, this pair of master and disciple, were too powerful, too insane. They were able to fight Martial Emperor Di to such an extent. How terrifying. They're doomed to die today. Although Supreme Nine Sons is burning his soul, He can't fight against Emperor De for long. The patriarch of the Jiang clan said coldly, without breaking through to the Huangqi layer. Fighting against a Huangqi layer is an unwise decision. No matter how strong you are, you will still lose. Since ancient times, there has never been a Zun cultivator who could defeat a Huangqi layer. The patriarch of the Luan clan said, bang, bang. The temple of Paragon shook more and more violently. It kept collapsing and exploding. Supreme Nine Suns' remnant soul started shaking as if it would disappear at any time. Teacher Yen Kuangta gritted his teeth and protected Lu Ming. He tried his best to fight back, but his body was shaking and blood was flowing out of his mouth. The situation was getting worse. Damn it, old bastard. He must be doing this on purpose. I don't care. I'll fight. The fat guy kept cursing. In the end, he gritted his teeth and rushed out of the crowd. He rushed towards Emperor De and Supreme Nine Suns. Fatty, what are you doing? Wan Tingting shouted. She was terrified. The others looked at the fat guy as if he was crazy. The fat guy dared to rush into the battlefield of Supreme Nine Suns and Martial Emperors. He was courting death. If he was hit by a strand of energy, he would be turned into ashes. He was crazy. However, the fatty's eyes were filled with viciousness as he muttered, "Old fart, I know you don't want to get involved in this mess. But now, your dearest and only disciple is about to die. Let's see if you still want to care." Fatty let out a low roar and charged toward the battlefield at top speed. Countless gazes were attracted by the fatty and landed on him. Everyone thought in their hearts that this fatty was crazy. The eyes of the Nine Heavens Supremes flickered, but they did not stop him. Since this ant-like thing was courting death, there was no need for them to stop him. Once he got close to the battlefield, only death would await him. Just as Fatty was about to reach the battlefield, a terrifying shockwave from the battle swept through the void. Wherever the shockwave passed, the void collapsed. A pitch-black spatial crack swept towards Fatty. "Old bastard, if you don't come, I'm going to die here." Fatty roared. Whung! At that moment, the space behind Fatty cracked open. A huge axe slashed out from the void. The spatial crack was destroyed by the axe. The axe did not stop. It continued to slash towards Martial Emperor De. Martial Emperor De's face turned solemn. He slashed with his palm, and a shocking sword glow burst out, clashing with the huge axe. It was as if the heavens and the earth had been split open. A brilliant light shone, causing the space to collapse. An endless force entered the void. At the same time, the sword glow and the axe canceled each other out and disappeared. Heavens, countless people were dumbfounded. Who came here? How could he fight against Martial Emperor De? Behind Fatty, a tall figure stepped out from the spatial crack. It was an old man with a messy white beard. However, his body was extremely fat. He looked like an older version of Kong Jin. He stood beside Fatty, his body emitting a terrifying and supreme aura. This aura was very similar to Martial Emperor De's aura. Martial Emperor. This is a Martial Emperor expert. Countless people's hearts twitched. Everything that happened today was beyond their imagination. At first, it was the spiritual gods, then the Supremes. In the end, even the Supreme Nine Suns and Martial Emperor De showed up. Now, another Martial Emperor had shown up. All of this was because of Lu Ming, because of this young man. These peerless experts had appeared one after another. It made many people feel like they were dreaming. Demonic Sky Old Monster, this has nothing to do with you. Why? Are you going to be my enemy? Martial Emperor De looked at the fat old man. Martial Emperor De's words shocked even more people. Demonic Sky Divine Emperor, This old man is actually the demonic Sky Divine Emperor. The demonic Sky Divine Emperor was an extremely famous, peerless expert in the Eastern Barren region. He was famous before Martial Emperor De. He was a true Martial Emperor expert. However, the demonic Sky Divine Emperor did not like to establish a force. He liked to live in seclusion, and his whereabouts were unpredictable. Almost no one knew where he was. In the past few thousand years, the demonic Sky Divine Emperor had disappeared without a trace. No one had seen him. It was rumored that the demonic Sky Divine Emperor had died because his lifespan had run out. For thousands of years, countless people in the Eastern Barren region had acknowledged this fact. They had never expected that the demonic Sky Divine Emperor would appear again after thousands of years. He had not died at all. The King Realm had a lifespan of 1,000 years. The Sea Spirit Realm had a lifespan of 2,000 years. The Spiritual Embryo Realm had a lifespan of 3,000 years. The Spiritual God Realm had a lifespan of 5,000 years. However, once one broke through to the Martial Emperor Realm, his lifespan would increase greatly and reach more than 10,000 years. However, the lifespan of a Martial Emperor Realm martial artist was uncertain. The short ones could only live for 10,000 years, but the long ones could live for 20,000 years. The demonic Sky Divine Emperor was definitely more than 15,000 years old. Therefore, many people thought that he had died. Ha! De, you are a Martial Emperor expert. How can you make things difficult for a few juniors? Is it fun? It's too shameful. The demonic Sky Divine Emperor laughed. This is a matter of the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace. It's not your place to worry about it. Please leave. Martial Emperor De said coldly. No. Master, Lu Ming is my brother. We swore that we would live and die together. No matter what, we have to save him today. Otherwise, you will lose me as your disciple. The fatty shouted, I don't care about the matters of the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace, but that little guy is my disciple's brother. If he dies, my disciple will die too. I am in a difficult position. How about this? I don't care about your two disciples, but I will take that little guy away. The demonic Sky Divine Emperor pointed at Lu Ming and said, Demonic Sky Divine Emperor, it seems like you want to be my enemy? Martial Emperor De's face darkened. His target was Lu Ming. How could he let the demonic Sky Divine Emperor take him away? De, so what if I am your enemy? You are just a clone now. Your real body is far away, right? Do you think I am afraid of you? Chapter 8:55. You little guys, go quickly. Leave De to me. The demonic Sky Divine Emperor glanced at Supreme 9 Suns and slashed at De with his axe. The axe could split the sky, as if it was going to split the entire Julong city. Thank you, Senior. Kwangtu, let's go. Supreme 9 Suns said, and rushed to the side with Yen Kwangtu. You guys, stop those two bastards. De slashed out a shocking sword light and fought with the demonic Sky Divine Emperor. At the same time, he ordered the 6 great ancient families. Yes, the 6 great ancient families responded and surrounded Supreme 9 Suns and Yen Kwangtu. You guys are courting death. Yen Kwangtu roared and attacked violently. However, Supreme 9 Suns and Yen Kwangtu had been injured during the battle with De. They were not as strong as before. They were blocked by the 6 great ancient families and could not rush out. Today, none of you can leave. The Wang family was furious. He had been seriously injured by Lu Ming and had almost died. It was a great humiliation. He wanted to skin Lu Ming alive. How could he let Lu Ming leave safely? His attacks were the most frenzied. He attacked Supreme 9 Suns and Yen Kwangtu without any regard for his life. Is that so? Explode. Supreme Nine Suns suddenly snorted and controlled the Temple of Paragon to attack the Wang family. During the collision, the Temple of Paragon emitted a dazzling light and a terrifying aura. Ah, no! The Wang family quickly retreated. But it was too late. Boom! The Temple of Paragon exploded like a sun. A terrifying power swept out and engulfed the Wang family's family. Ah! The Wang family's family screamed. His body was broken and half of his body had exploded. He had almost died. Miserable, too miserable. The Wang family's family had almost been killed by Lu Ming. He had barely recovered when the Temple of Paragon exploded and almost died. Charge! Supreme Nine Suns and Yen Kuangtu rushed forward quickly. The self-destruction of the Temple of Paragon opened up a path. The two of them brought Lu Ming out of the encirclement. Rip! The three-legged golden crow that Yen Kuangtu had transformed into tore at the space with its claws. He and Supreme Nine Suns rushed into the space crack and disappeared. Chase after him. Emperor Di was furious and roared. The other 5 supreme beings tore through the space and chased after Yen Kuangtu and the others. In the 9 Dragon City, countless people were stunned. Supremacy Jiuyang and Yen Kuangtu escaped with Lu Ming. There were still 2 Imperial Plane cultivators fighting in the sky. Today's battle was destined to shock the entire Eastern Wilderness. Lu Ming's name was destined to attract everyone's attention. 3 days later, in the west of 9 Dragons City, on a mountain peak far away, a figure was sitting cross-legged. Another figure was constantly patting the former's body, sending streams of true yuan into the latter's body. After a while, the latter figure finally stopped slapping. These 2 figures were Lu Ming and Yen Kuangtu. Lu Ming sat cross-legged as Yen Kuangtu healed him. After nearly 3 days of rushing, they had finally shaken off the 5 patriarchs of the ancient families. Yen Kuangtu was healing Lu Ming. Lu Ming's glabella shone, and a black bead flew out. Then, Supreme Nine Suns' remnant soul flew out of the bead. At this moment, Supreme Nine Suns' remnant soul was extremely weak, as if it would dissipate at any time. "How is Lu Ming?" Supreme Nine Suns asked. "Master, Lu Ming is seriously injured, but after my treatment he is much better. He should wake up soon." Yen Kuangtu said. At this moment, Lu Ming's body trembled. He spat out a mouthful of blood and slowly opened his eyes. "Where am I?" Lu Ming opened his eyes. The environment in front of him stunned him. Wasn't he in 9 Dragons City? Supreme Nine Suns and Yen Kuangtu were fighting against Martial Emperor Di, but it was calm here. Where were the traces of a battle? Then he saw Yen Kuangtu and Supreme Nine Suns. "Senior Nine Suns, Brother Yen." Lu Ming was overjoyed when he saw Supreme Nine Suns and Yen Kuangtu. This battle started because of him, but it implicated Supreme Nine Suns and Yen Kuangtu. If anything happened to Supreme Nine Suns and Yen Kuangtu, he would feel uneasy. Now that he saw that both of them were here, he finally felt relieved. "Lu Ming, how are you feeling?" "You have been unconscious for 3 days." Supreme Nine Suns said. 3 days. Lu Ming was shocked and said, "I'm much better now." "Senior Nine Suns, where is this? Are we not in 9 Dragons City anymore?" Lu Ming asked. He was curious. If Martial Emperor Di had attacked Supreme Nine Suns, and Yen Kuangtu would not have been able to escape. Perhaps something else had happened while he was unconscious. "Yes, we are not in 9 Dragons City. We are very far away from it. We are almost out of Emperor Heaven Divine Palace's territory." Yen Kuangtu nodded and continued. "This time, we are lucky to have the help of the demonic Sky Divine Emperor. Otherwise, we would not have been able to escape from Di's evil hands. The demonic sky divine emperor is that legendary emperor, realm expert. Lu Ming was shocked. He did not understand why the demonic sky divine emperor would help them. Could it be that Supreme 9 Sons and Yen Kuangtu had asked for help? Yes, it's that senior. His disciple seems to be your brother. That's why the demonic sky divine emperor helped. Supreme 9 Sons explained. My brother? Lu Ming was even more surprised. Buzz. At that moment, the space in the sky suddenly cracked. Lu Ming was shocked. It should be Senior Demonic Sky, Yen Kuangta said. Obviously, they had contacted each other before. Sure enough, a few figures stepped out of the space crack. One of the elders was the Demonic Sky Divine Emperor. Beside the Demonic Sky Divine Emperor were a young man and a young woman. Fatty Ting Ting. Seeing the two young people, Lu Ming was overjoyed. The two young people were Fatty and Wan Ting Ting. Lu Ming, haha, are you okay? Fatty grinned and flew toward Lu Ming. I'm fine. Lu Ming smiled faintly. He finally knew who his brother was. It must be Fatty. He had never expected Fatty's master to be the legendary Demonic Sky Divine Emperor. Junior pays his respects to Senior Demonic Sky. Thank you for your help this time. Supreme 9 Sons and Yen Kuangta stepped forward and bowed to thank the Demonic Sky Divine Emperor. Junior Lu Ming thanks Senior Demonic Sky for your help. Lu Ming stepped forward and bowed as well. Don't mention it. If it weren't for my unfilial disciple, I wouldn't have bothered to help. I've offended D.E. for no reason. The Demonic Sky Divine Emperor twisted his lips. Old man, are you afraid of Martial Dominator D.E.? Fatty twisted his lips and glanced at the Demonic Sky Divine Emperor. Supreme 9 Sons, Yen Kuangtu, Lu Ming, and Wan Tingting felt their eyelids twitching. They almost bit their tongues. Old man, Chapter 856. The Demonic Sky Sovereign was enraged. He glared and scolded. Little brat, what did you say? Do you think I am afraid of that brat, D.E.? When I roamed the world, your grandfather's grandfather's grandfather was not even born yet. Little brat, let me tell you, I am afraid of getting into trouble. You know that? However, the fatty still curled his lips and looked at the Demonic Sky Sovereign suspiciously. The Demonic Sky Sovereign's aura weakened a little. He said, Little brat, what do you know? Let me tell you, D.E. is really amazing, and his cultivation is extremely high. This time, it's lucky that it's only his doppelganger. His real body should be practicing overseas. Otherwise, even I may not be able to stop him. Supreme 9 Yang and Yen Kuangta nodded. They were very clear about Di-Yi's strength. If he was not strong, how could he establish the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace in the Eastern Desolate region and contend with the Sky Beast Valley? Before the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace, the Heavenly Corpse sect did not exist. At that time, there was the Talisman Puppet sect and other overlord factions. All the human factions had to work together to contend with the Sky Beast Valley. Now, just the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace alone could contend with the Sky Beast Valley. This showed how strong Di was. After this battle, Di's main body will definitely return from overseas. However, those that can help Di cultivate must be very far away from the Divine Desolate region. It will be impossible for him to return in a short time. However, when he returns, he will definitely do his best to find you. What are your plans after this? The Demonic Sky Sovereign asked. Senior, we plan to head to the Talisman Puppet sect and let Lu Ming prepare for the Battle of Luck. Supreme 9 Yang said, Yes, even if Di-Yi's main body comes personally, he will not be able to break through the Talisman Puppet sect's Inyang Mountain. It is a pretty good place. The demonic sky sovereign nodded. Senior Nine Yang, are we going to the talisman puppet sect next? Then my parents. Lu Ming's expression changed slightly. He thought of Lu Yuntian and the others. The Lu clan was in the territory of the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace. Little guy, this little brat has already told me about your situation. The place where I live in seclusion is in the eastern part of the eastern wilderness. It's not far from your hometown. As for your parents, I will take care of them. Also, although Emperor Di doesn't do things the right way, he's still a martial emperor. He won't harm your family for you. Otherwise, if the news spread that he, a martial emperor, couldn't deal with a sea of Soul Realm Jr. and threatened him with his family, he wouldn't be able to survive in the Eastern Barren Territory anymore. The demonic Sky Emperor said. Lu Ming was overjoyed. He quickly bowed towards the Devil Sky Emperor and said, Lu Ming thanks Senior again. Little guy, you don't have to be so polite. Since you've offended DE, there's no harm in helping you with this little favor. Just take it for the sake of this little bastard. The demonic Sky Emperor waved his hand. Actually, he had another plan in mind. Lu Ming was not someone to be trifled with. He actually dared to make a move in the face of an emperor. His determination and guts shocked him. Ordinary people would be lucky if they could stand firmly when facing an emperor, Heaven Divine Emperor, let alone attack him. Under such a mighty aura, they couldn't even summon the slightest bit of fighting spirit. They would be defeated before the battle. However, Lu Ming, who was only in the spiritual sea realm, was still able to go against the flow. It was really rare. If Lu Ming could surpass DE in the future, his future would be limitless. As for the demonic Sky Emperor, he didn't have much time left. If he could use this opportunity to build a good relationship with Lu Ming, Kong Jin would be able to use Lu Ming's strength to go further in the future. He was planning for Kong Jin. The demonic Sky Emperor looked at Supreme Nine Yang and asked, Actually, I'm very curious. Why did DE want to kill you back then? Why does he want to capture Lu Ming now? At the side, Yan Kuangtu, the fatty, and Wan Tingting also looked at Supreme Nine Yang curiously. It was like this back then. Immediately, Nine Sun's supremacy explained the cause and effect of the matter to Chu Feng. Damn it, DE is actually so despicable. To think that I fought for him for so many years. Yen Kuangtu growled, his anger soaring to the sky. I really didn't expect DE to be so despicable and unscrupulous. It seems that DE is planning something big. The demonic Sky Emperor said in a low voice, Indeed, according to my speculation, DE's plan is not as simple as the Eastern Wilderness. Supreme Nine Yang said, Well, okay, I have to go too. I'm old. I'll have to rely on you guys to deal with DE in the end. The demonic Sky Emperor nodded and said, Lu Ming, in half a year, I'll go to the Talisman Puppet sect to find you and participate in the Battle of Providence together. I won't fight for the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace. The fatty said, Lu Ming, I'll take my leave too. Wan Tingting walked over and said, Okay, take care. See you in the Battle of Providence. Lu Ming cupped his fists. Let's go, little brat. When you go back this time, you'd better cultivate well. Now, you know that there's always someone better out there. The demonic Sky Emperor scolded. With a wave of his hand, he swept up the fatty and Wan Tingting tore open the space and stepped in. Then the space recovered, and they disappeared. Lu Ming, here's what you left in the Temple of Paragon. Take it. The Temple of Paragon has collapsed. Supreme Nine Yang took out a storage ring and handed it to Lu Ming. Senior Nine Yang, are you all right? Lu Ming took it. Looking at Supreme Nine Yang's weak remnant soul, Lu Ming felt terrible. Supreme Nine Yang's soul power had recovered a lot, but this time, he was even weaker than before. This time, it was all because of him. Lu Ming, don't worry. I'm fine. You don't have to blame yourself. This battle is good for us. Supreme Nine Yang said, as if he had seen through Lu Ming's thoughts. Good. Lu Ming was stunned. That's right. When you unleashed your bloodline, the primes of the ancient families immediately rushed over. This means that DE had already noticed the appearance of the Nine Dragons bloodline in Nine Dragons City, so he sent people to keep an eye on it. I've underestimated DE. If that's the case, it's even more dangerous for you. We don't know when DE will find out. If he secretly attacks, we won't even have a chance to fight back. After this battle, the first benefit is that both sides are now clear and there is no need to worry about DE secretly attacking. Furthermore, after this battle, Quang-Tu has also followed us out. With Quang-Tu's help, my soul power will definitely recover even faster. After this, Quang-Tu will be of great help to you in controlling the Talisman Puppet Sect. In addition, we can also befriend the Demonic Sky Emperor. If the Demonic Sky Emperor helps us at a critical moment, it will be of great help to us. These are all benefits. Supreme Nine Yang explained. Lu Ming nodded. Indeed, with Yen Quang-Tu's help, he would be more confident in his trip to the Talisman Puppet Sect. I have this soul-gathering pearl that can slowly recover my soul power. What we need to do now is to heal your injuries and then go to the Talisman Puppet Sect. After you've settled down in the Talisman Puppet Sect, Quang-Tu will bring me to find treasures to recover my soul power. Chapter 857. Lu Ming, let's go. Let's leave this place first and find a place to recuperate, Yen Quang said. His quintessence wrapped around Lu Ming. Then he tore space apart, and the two's figures disappeared. One day later, they had already left the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace's territory and entered the Talisman Puppet Sect's territory. The territory that the Talisman Puppet Sect occupied was much smaller than the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace's. However, it still had more than 30 large regions. There was a small lake between the vast mountains, looking like a resplendent pearl. Lu Ming sat cross-legged by the lake and circulated the true dragon battle art to treat his injuries. Yen Quang-Tu sat cross-legged on a tall mountain several li away, also treating his injuries. Back then, when Yen Quang-Tu fought with Martial Monarch DE, he was also injured. Nine Dragon City was not calm. Although the great battle was over, the commotion caused by it spread far and wide. Countless people discussed this matter. The names of Lu Ming, Yen Quang-Tu, and Supreme Nine Sons were discussed by countless people. There was a divine nine-dragon cauldron guarding the heads of the 9 dragon veins. After the great battle, the 9 divine cauldrons returned to their old places. They were like immemorial divine mountains, unmoving for eternity. Countless people went to the heads of the 9 dragon veins to observe. Many people even went forward, hoping to imitate Lu Ming and pull out the cauldrons. Unfortunately, they were destined to be disappointed. How could they touch the divine cauldrons that martial monarchs could not? Why? Why can Lu Ming pull out the cauldrons and even summon the 9 cauldrons while others can't? What secret does he have? Perhaps he obtained the divine 9 dragon cauldrons acknowledgement. There are conditions for that. I heard that it has something to do with Lu Ming's bloodline. It is said that Martial Monarch DE made a move for this bloodline. Now that Lu Ming is not dead, do you think he will return one day and summon the 9 cauldrons? Shh, be quiet. Do you want to die? Countless people discussed this. However, when it came to sensitive topics, they were all careful. No matter how the wind blew, the 9 cauldrons did not move as if they were waiting for their master. Time flew by quickly. In the blink of an eye, half a month had passed. Beside the small lake, a faint light appeared on Lu Ming's body, and a sound like a tsunami came from his body. After a while, the sound subsided, and Lu Ming opened his eyes. My injuries have been healed. Unfortunately, the 9 Dragons bloodline exploded its golden chakra and returned to level 9 King Realm. But it doesn't matter. As long as I have enough essence and blood, I will soon reach the level of God Realm. Lu Ming thought to himself, strength, strength, my strength is still too weak. The difference between me and those experts is too great. Lu Ming couldn't help but clench his fists. After this battle, Lu Ming clearly saw the gap between himself and the top experts of the Eastern Barren Territory. In front of Martial Emperor Di, he was like an ant. There was no way he could compare with him. There were also exalts and domain enlightened spirit gods. All of them were terrifying and shocking, and they were much stronger than him. His strength was too weak. Being weak meant that he was in a passive position. Strength. Everything was because of strength. He had to increase his strength as soon as possible. Shao Qing, wait for me in the Central Continent. I will definitely go to the Central Continent and take you away. That day won't be too far away. Lu Ming's eyes were filled with determination. This time, he understood that he was being impulsive. But who hadn't been impulsive when they were young? Moreover, he was facing the person he loved. He had to watch her go to a place she didn't want to go and suffer. How could he be indifferent? The key was that he was not strong enough. If he was strong enough, he could break through all obstacles. Who could stop him? It was the second time in his life that Lu Ming desired strength so much. The first time was when Liu Yao took away his bloodline and wanted to take over the Liu clan. At that time, Lu Ming desired strength. With strength, he could defeat Liu Yao and regain control of the Liu clan and his own fate. He could stop Li Ping from being bullied. Now he desired strength. With strength, he could take Xian Yanqing away, fight against Martial Emperor Di, and protect his family and friends. After taking a few deep breaths, Lu Ming calmed himself down. Where did that fellow Dandan run off to? At this moment, Lu Ming thought of Dandan. Previously, during the battle in Jiulong City, Dandan had slipped away. No one knew where he went. That guy is very cunning. He should be fine. Lu Ming thought. Lu Ming, how are your injuries? Yan Kuangtu appeared beside Lu Ming and asked. I've recovered. Lu Ming stood up and said, well, let's go to the Talisman Puppet Sect's Yin and Yang Mountain. I'm an old friend of the Talisman faction. I've already informed him. Yan Kuangtu said, thank you, Brother Yan. Lu Ming cupped his fists and said, ha, why are you being so polite with me? Speaking of which, we are brothers. It's just that Master didn't accept you as his disciple. Yan Kuangtu laughed. Immediately, Yan Kuangtu tore the space apart and rushed to the Yin and Yang Mountain with Lu Ming. Half a day later, an incomparably huge mountain appeared in front of Lu Ming. Although they were separated by an unknown distance, Lu Ming could still feel the majesty and magnificence of the Yin and Yang Mountain while standing high in the sky. The Yin and Yang Mountain was the headquarters of the Talisman Puppet Sect. It was formed by 2 incomparably huge mountains. The 2 mountains were like 2 Yin and Yang fishes intertwined with each other, forming the shape of Yin and Yang. Even though there was a great distance between them, Lu Ming could still feel a vast pressure spreading toward him. It pressed down on his heart and his sea of consciousness, causing his mental flame to flicker. The 2 mountains formed a natural formation with the help of the inscription formation. Is this the Yin and Yang Mountain that is said to be unbreakable by martial emperors? It's really a creation of heaven and earth. Lu Ming exclaimed inwardly. He could feel that the Yin and Yang Mountain was surrounded by terrifying killing formations. Once a strong enemy approached, it would surely unleash a deadly attack. This was the headquarters of the Talisman puppet sect. After countless years, terrifying killing formations had been engraved here, which was what the Talisman puppet sect relied on. Although the Talisman puppet sect did not have a martial emperor now, it was still considered one of the four overlord factions. Even Martial Emperor D.E. could not do anything about it. Buzz. At that instant, the space ahead suddenly fluctuated. Following it, the space was torn apart and a figure stepped out from it. It was a middle-aged man with a long beard. He was wearing a Tai Chi robe and had an otherworldly aura. His eyes were filled with wisdom. As soon as he appeared, he swept his gaze across Yen Kuang-tu and Lu Ming and said, "Yen Kuang-tu, you guys have really caused a big commotion. The battle in Nine Dragons City has made you famous in the Eastern Wilderness. Now, I'm afraid some of the bigger forces have heard about it. Bai Shijin, are you making fun of me?" Yen Kuang-tu took a sip of wine and said, casually. He then introduced the man to Lu Ming. "This man is Bai Shijin, the leader of the Talisman faction of the Talisman puppet sect. He's an old acquaintance of mine." Lu Ming's heart shuddered. So this man is the leader of the Talisman faction. Currently, the Talisman puppet sect was divided into two factions, the Talisman faction and the puppet faction. The two factions were not willing to submit to each other and were constantly in conflict. "You are Lu Ming, right? Your name is quite famous now. I heard that the battle at Nine Dragons City was caused by you. I'm quite curious. What is it that made D.E. personally take action?" Chapter 858. Bai Shijin, let's talk about this later. Let's talk about business first. Yen Kuang-tu said. "Business? Yen Kuang-tu, you two aren't really thinking of joining my Talisman puppet sect, are you? Speaking of which, Sky Monster Valley and Heavenly Corpse sect are better choices. With the help of Heavenly Corpse sect or Sky Monster Valley, we can better fight against Emperor, Heavenly Divine Palace, and D.E., right?" Bai Shijin stroked his beard and said, "Bai Shijin, you're wrong. I'm not here to join the Talisman puppet sect, but to help Lu Ming take charge of the Talisman puppet sect." Yen Kuang-tu was very direct and went straight to the point. "What did you say?" Bai Shijin's body suddenly erupted with a powerful aura. His eyes turned cold as he stared at Yen Kuang-tu and said, "Yen Kuang-tu, this joke is not funny at all." "It's not funny, but it's not a joke. I'll tell you directly. Lu Ming is the successor of Senior Liao Tsang." Yen Kuang-tu said. "What? What did you say?" This time, Bai Shijin almost screamed, completely unable to control his emotions. His eyes were wide open as he looked at Lu Ming in shock. "The successor of Senior Master Liao Tsang? You've seen Senior Master Liao Tsang? He's been missing for 3,000 years. Where did you see him? Don't try to lie to me." A bunch of questions popped out of Bai Shijin's mouth. "Senior Bai, whether it's true or not, you'll know when you see this." Lu Ming stepped forward and waved his hand. The 10,000 formation illustration appeared in his hand. The illustration opened and a powerful aura spread out. There were mountains, rivers, lakes, and seas engraved on it. It was incomparably mysterious. Bai Shijin's pupils shrank rapidly as he stared at the 10,000 formation illustration in Lu Ming's hand. He muttered to himself, 10,000 formation illustration. It's really the 10,000 formation illustration. What happened to Senior Master Liao Tsang? Why did he disappear for 3,000 years? I'm afraid Senior Master Liao Tsang doesn't have much time left. Lu Ming sighed. What's going on? What's going on? Bai Shijin stared at Lu Ming as if he wanted to see through Lu. Bai Shijin, I have the myriad formation illustration. Do you still not believe me? Yen Kuang-tu said coldly. The 10,000 formation illustration is Patriarch Lian Song's divine weapon. At the same time, it is also the talisman puppet cult's heirloom. If it wasn't passed down personally by Patriarch Liansong, none of you would have been able to obtain it. Even emperors wouldn't be able to obtain it. Since Lu Ming was able to obtain it, I naturally believe him. Where is Patriarch Lian Tsong now? I want to know. Bai Shijin said. It's like this. Immediately, Lu Ming briefly told him about his encounter with Lian Tsong. What? Was the Patriarch assassinated by D.E.? Damn, despicable and shameless D.E. After listening to Lu Ming's explanation, Bai Shijin roared in anger. He really didn't expect Liao Tsong to be harmed by D.E. back then. Then, Di Tian Divine Palace slowly encroached on the talisman puppet sect's territory, causing the talisman puppet sect's strength to become weaker and weaker. Bai Shijin, now you know the whole story. Lu Ming is the successor of Patriarch Liansong. He was entrusted by Patriarch Liansong to take charge of the talisman puppet cult. Are you going to go against Patriarch Liansong's order? Yan Quangta stared at Bai Shijin and said in a deep voice. Bai Shijin's face darkened as if he was thinking about something. After a while, he said, I was greatly indebted to Patriarch Liansong. Without Patriarch Liansong, I wouldn't be where I am today. Patriarch Liansong's grace is something that I would never dare to ask for. How could I go against Patriarch Liansong's order? But talisman puppet cult is not something that I can decide. There are still elders in the talisman puppet cult. Humph, you mean they won't respect Liansong's order? Yan Quangta said coldly. If Patriarch Liansong's real body was here, they naturally wouldn't dare. But now, Lu Ming is just a junior. With the 10,000 formation illustration, I'm afraid it's very difficult, Bai Shijin said with a sigh. Senior Bai, how can we know if we don't try? Lu Ming said with a smile. All right, follow me into the talisman puppet cult first. I'll gather the elders of the two sects and make a decision together. Bai Shijin said after thinking for a while. All right, let's do that. Yan Quangta nodded. Then, Bai Shijin tore the space apart. The two of them followed Bai Shijin and stepped into the space. Following Bai Shijin would naturally not be attacked by the formation. Otherwise, even if they tore the space apart, they would still be attacked by the formation. In the next moment, the space trembled. Lu Ming, Yan Quangtu, and Bai Shijin appeared in a courtyard. Yan Quangtu, Lu Ming, you two stay here for the night. Tomorrow, I'll gather the upper echelons and elders of the two sects and make a decision together. Then you two can go together, Bai Shijin said. Lu Ming and Yan Quangta nodded. Then Bai Shijin left. Brother Yan, can we trust Bai Shijin if we just enter the talisman puppet cult like this? Lu Ming asked Yan Quangtu. If Bai Shijin had bad intentions, wouldn't it be very dangerous for them to enter this place? Lu Ming, you can rest assured. Bai Shijin is an old friend of Master. We've known each other for many years. He's a very righteous person. Moreover, he was taught by Senior Liao Tsong. Although he's a disciple's grandson, he's no different from a disciple. He's very loyal to Senior Liao Tsong. Yan Quangta said, That's good then. Lu Ming said. Thus, they decided to stay here. A day passed in the blink of an eye. On the second day, people from the Liao Tsong sect came and led them to the conference hall. In a huge hall, there were more than a dozen figures sitting. There were men and women in the group. Some of them looked middle-aged, and some of them were white-haired old men. At the top, on the left, sat Bai Shijin. On the right, sat a white-haired elder with a sage-like demeanor. This elder was the current leader of the talisman sect, Du Songjue. The people in the hall were the most senior elders of the talisman puppet cult. Some of them were equivalent to supremes, while the weakest was equivalent to a peak 9th-level spirit god. They were the people with the highest status in the talisman puppet cult. By Shurjin, you've gathered all of us here, saying that you have something important to discuss. What's the matter? Can you tell us now? On the right, a middle-aged man with a burly appearance spoke. This person was a senior elder of the talisman sect. His name was Meng Chong, and he was extremely powerful, equivalent to a Supremes. Currently, the talisman puppet cult only had a total of 5 Supremes. One could imagine how powerful this person was in the talisman puppet cult. Not everyone is here yet. I'll tell you when they're all here. By Shurjin said, not everyone is here yet. The upper echelons of both our sects are here. Who else are we waiting for? Meng Chong said, they're waiting for us. A rough voice came from outside the hall. Then, 2 figures walked in from outside. Yan Kuang-tu, it's you? As soon as Meng Chong saw Yan Kuang-tu, he suddenly stood up. A silver light flickered between his eyebrows. However, there were traces of faint golden light mixed within the silver light. A powerful aura spread out. The faint golden light meant that the spirit fire was about to transform into a golden color. A golden spirit fire was equivalent to a 9th-level inscription master, equivalent to an emperor realm expert. Chapter 8:59. Bang! A powerful aura burst out from Yan Kuang-tu's body as he stared at Meng Chong and said, Meng Chong, what are you yelling for? Are you surprised to see me? Humph. Of course I'm surprised to see you. Who doesn't know about the battle at 9 Dragons City? Yan Kuang-tu, so you've escaped from 9 Dragons City and came to the Duality Mountain to join our talisman puppet sect. By Shurjin, you've gathered us here to discuss Yan Kuang-tu joining us, right? I object. If Martial Emperor Di knew that Yan Kuang-tu had joined us, it would be a great loss if he waged a war against us. Meng Chong said in a loud voice, that's right. Although Yan Kuang-tu's strength is strong, it's not worth offending Martial Emperor Di. The other elders of the puppeteer sect spoke too. Lu Ming watched coldly. It was said that the puppeteer sect had the intention to join Martial Emperor Di. It seemed like it was true. However, Bai Shurjin and the elders of the talisman puppet sect remained silent. Ha! Meng Chong, I think you're overthinking it. I'm not here to join you. I'm here because of Brother Lu Ming. Yan Kuang-tu burst out laughing. Lu Ming? The others glanced at Lu Ming. Their eyes were filled with curiosity. They were curious why such a young man would cause a battle at 9 Dragons City, to the point that even Martial Emperor Di was involved. He's Lu Ming. It's said that the battle at 9 Dragons City was because of him. You're asking us to protect him, right? No way. How is it possible to offend Martial Emperor Di because of him? Yan Kuang-tu, I advise you to leave at once. There's no room for discussion. Meng Chong said. Who says Lu Ming is here to join the talisman puppet sect. He's here to take charge of the talisman puppet sect. Yan Kuang-tu said with a grin. Silence. The hall suddenly became quiet. The elders of the talisman puppet sect were stunned. They looked at Yan Kuang-tu and Lu Ming in a daze. Ha ha, Yan Kuang-tu, I think you're crazy. You've lost your mind after being beaten by Martial Emperor Di in 9 Dragons City. You've come to the talisman puppet sect. A kid taking charge of the talisman? What a joke, what a joke. After quite a while, Meng Chong laughed out crazily. The others also looked at Yan Kuang-tu as if they were looking at a madman. Yan Kuang-tu curled his lips and did not seem to mind. He took out his wine gourd and drank a mouthful of wine, after which he said in an indifferent tone, if Lu Ming is the successor of Senior Lien Song and is entrusted by Senior Lien Song to take charge of the talisman puppet sect, I wonder if that is possible Silence. The hall suddenly became quiet again, so quiet that even the sound of a pin dropping could be heard. Nonsense! Ancestor Liansong has been missing for 3,000 years. How could he have obtained his legacy? It was still Meng Chong who spoke. Du Songjue's eyes flickered as he glanced at the expressionless Bai Shijin. I wonder if this can be proven? At this moment, Lu Ming took a step forward, and the myriad formation illustration appeared in his hand. All of a sudden, everyone in the hall focused their attention on the myriad formation illustration. Hiss, hiss, hiss. Then a series of gasps could be heard. Myriad formation illustration. It's actually the myriad formation illustration. Oh my God! The myriad formation illustration has reappeared. The myriad formation illustration is the divine weapon of sect leader Liansong, and also his keepsake. Without sect leader Liansong's personal guidance, no one can control it. Could he really be the successor of sect leader Liansong? Exclamations could be heard in the hall. Each of the elders' glabella flickered with silver light, and their spiritual fire jumped. Their spiritual power was like a spiritual storm that filled the hall, forming a strong pressure. Myriad formation illustration. Kid, where did you get it? Quickly hand it over. Meng Chong suddenly stood up, and a terrifying pressure spread out from his glabella, pressing down on Lu Ming. His eyes flickered with greed. If he could obtain the myriad formation illustration, then the puppet sect would be able to command the entire talisman puppet sect. Du Songjue's eyes flickered, and the spiritual fire between his glabella jumped. Obviously, he was also very excited. Bang! Yen Quangta took a step forward, and a powerful aura rushed out, covering Lu Ming's body to resist the pressure. What? You want to go against Senior Liansong's order and snatch the myriad formation illustration? Yen Quangtu's eyes were cold. The myriad formation illustration is a sacred object of the talisman puppet sect. How can it be controlled by a kid? Quickly hand over the myriad formation illustration and tell us about the situation with Senior Master Liansong, and we can let you leave safely. Meng Chong said coldly. What a joke. Meng Chong, believe it or not, I will cripple you. Yen Quangtu roared, and golden flames of the golden crow spread out from his body. A violent aura rushed towards Meng Chong, causing the aura in the hall to suddenly rise. Meng Chong's face changed greatly, and his spiritual fire jumped. In front of him, dense inscriptions suddenly spread out, forming an inscription formation to resist Yen Quangtu's pressure. At the same time, he shouted, Yen Quangtu, although your battle strength is strong, this is the talisman puppet sect. If we fight, you will definitely die. It's enough to kill you, Yen Quangtu said loudly, incomparably domineering. Meng Chong and the others of the puppet sect looked very serious. They thought of the Battle of 9 Dragons. In the Battle of 9 Dragons, Yen Quangtu's battle strength was invincible, and he was able to fight against 3 Supremes. His battle strength had reached a terrifying level. If they really fought, even if they could defeat Yen Quangtu, they would have to pay a heavy price. Ha! Meng Chong, Brother Quangtu, we are all old acquaintances. Why do we have to be hostile? Sit down and talk slowly. At this time, Du Songjue, who had been silent all this time, said with a smile. Meng Chong snorted coldly and sat down again. Yen Quangta chuckled, and the aura on his body also converged. Lu Ming did not speak, and sighed slightly in his heart. He had long known that it would not be so easy to control the talisman puppet sect with just the myriad formation illustration. If Yen Quangta was not there, he believed that the people of the talisman puppet sect would definitely kill him and then seize the myriad formation illustration without the slightest room for negotiation. This was strength. Only with strength would there be room for negotiation. Lu Ming has inherited the mantle of Grandmaster Liansong. This cannot be wrong. Otherwise, he would not be able to control the myriad formation illustration. At this time, Bai Shijin slowly spoke. This is indeed the case. The other elders of the Talisman Puppet sect nodded their heads. So what if that's the case? Letting a kid like him control the Talisman Puppet sect? Besides, he has offended Martial Emperor Di. It will be a disaster if Martial Emperor Di comes to us. Meng Chong harumphed coldly. Meng Chong, I know that the puppet sect wants to rely on Martial Emperor Di, but is Di worth it? My master, the Nine Sons Supreme, has contributed a lot to Di, but he still killed him easily. If you rely on him, you might end up in the same situation. Yan Kuangta chuckled. Du Songjue, Meng Chong, and the others of the puppet sect were startled, but they did not say anything. Besides, I'll tell you one more thing. Don't you want to know why Senior Liansong suddenly disappeared? He was assassinated by Di. Only a wisp of his soul was left, and he escaped underground. Chapter 860. Other than Bai Shijin, who knew about this beforehand, the others were so shocked that they almost jumped up. What? Sect leader Liao Tsang was killed by Martial Emperor Di? How is that possible? How could such a thing happen? The founding elders were shocked, especially the founding elders of the puppet faction, who were even more shocked. It's true. Master said it himself. The million formation illustration is now half destroyed because Master was severely injured in the battle with Di. Lu Ming said loudly. After Lu Ming finished speaking, a figure stepped out from his forehead. It was Supreme Nine Sons. Supreme Nine Sons. The people of the Talisman Puppet sect looked at Supreme Nine Sons. Many of them were old acquaintances of Supreme Nine Sons. Everyone, what Lu Ming said is true. I met Senior Liao Tsang once underground. Supreme Nine Sons said. Supreme Nine Sons' words made everyone fall into silence. Master, you were actually killed by Martial Emperor Di. Du Songjue mumbled to himself. Du Songjue was Liao Tsang's direct disciple. So, do you still want to join Di? If the other disciples of the Talisman Puppet sect knew that the sect leader, the leader of the Talisman Puppet sect, was killed by Martial Emperor Di, and you want to join him instead, what would they think? Yan Kuangta sneered. Meng Chong and the other founding elders of the puppet faction had ugly expressions. Di had killed Liao Tsang and then invaded the territory of the Talisman Puppet sect. He was their mortal enemy. How could they join Di? If the other disciples knew about this, many of them would rebel. Since Di had killed Liao Tsang, why would he take them in? Why would he not guard against them? This path was obviously impossible. What the Talisman Puppet sect can do now is to unite and accumulate strength to fight against Di Tian Divine Palace and Martial Emperor Di. Otherwise, we will be defeated. Yan Kuangta said loudly. Ridiculous. How can we fight against Martial Emperor Di, who can fight against Di without becoming an emperor? Meng Chong sneered. The others nodded. If someone can break through to the Martial Emperor realm, they can fight against Di and even kill him. Yan Kuangta said, breaking through to the Martial Royal realm? Haha, it's not that easy. How many peerless geniuses have been born in the Eastern continent for the past 10,000 years? How many of them were able to break through to the Martial Royal realm? On average, there would only be one every few thousand years. Yan Kuangtu, you are known as the genius of the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace that only appears once every 1,000 years. Can you do it? Are you confident? Meng Chong looked at Yan Kuangtu mockingly. I might not be able to, but Lu Ming definitely can. Yen Kuangtu said. Him. What right does a little brat have? Ridiculous. Meng Chong sneered. I think so too. Senior Liao Tsang thinks so too. Supreme Nine Sons said, silencing Meng Chong. The Talisman Puppet Sect members involuntarily gathered their gazes onto Lu Ming once again. They couldn't help but think of the rumors about Lu Ming. Even Emperor Di was willing to help him. Yen Kuangtu and the Nine Sons Supreme, these two peerless Nine Sons Supremes trusted him so much. Besides, why was Liao Tsang willing to pass down his mantle to him? What was so special about him? Why was he worthy of the attention of so many authorities? Important. Everyone, since Lu Ming has obtained the inheritance of our ancestor, we can't disobey his orders. At that instant, Bai Shijin spoke once again. This is a serious matter that concerns the future of the Talisman Puppet Sect. We have to consider it carefully, unless Lu Ming can prove that he is worthy of us taking such a huge risk. Du Songjue said. That's right. Besides, I've heard that this brat is very talented in martial arts. However, if he wants to control the Talisman Puppet Sect, he can't rely on his martial arts. Brat, show us your spiritual rings. Meng Chong said coldly. Lu Ming wore a smile on his face. It was obvious that the people of the puppet sect were starting to relax. This was a good start. Seniors, if you want to take a look, let's have a look. Lu Ming stepped forward and brought his fists together. Meanwhile, his glabella glowed as spiritual rings appeared above his head. There were a total of 6 of them: crimson, orange, yellow, green, blue, and blue. 6 different colors, 6 spiritual rings. The hall fell into silence once again. Everyone widened their eyes and mouths as they stared at Lu Ming in a daze. They stared at the mental energy ring above his head with an incredulous expression. Perfect, all perfect. The first 5 ranks are perfect. How is this possible? How is this possible? Meng Chong's mouth was wide open as if he had just swallowed a dead mouse. Genius, a peerless genius. Such talent is comparable to Patriarch Liao Tsang's. Yeah, Patriarch Liao Tsang achieved perfect mastery in the first 5 ranks and lit up 9 spiritual rings for the 6th rank. Lu Ming has a chance to reach Patriarch Liao Tsang's level. The elders of the Talisman Puppet Sect discussed in astonishment. Bai Shijin was also dumbfounded and shocked. The reason why he stood on Lu Ming's side previously was mainly because of Liao Tsang's legacy. No matter who Liao Tsang's legacy was passed down to, he would support it. However, he did not expect Lu Ming's inscription talent to be so terrifying. The first 5 ranks were perfect mastery. Apart from Liao Tsang, no one in the Talisman Puppet Sect had achieved that in the past 10,000 years. On the side, Yen Kuangtu was also dumbfounded. He did not know that Lu Ming's talent in the Tao of inscription was so terrifying. He could not help but smile wryly. To be able to achieve such a feat while cultivating both martial and inscription. This kid is incredible. No wonder Patriarch Liao Tsang is interested in him. Perhaps he can revitalize our Talisman Puppet Sect in the future? It's hard to say. The elders of the Talisman Puppet Sect discussed. Bai Shijin, this is a serious matter. Let's discuss it. Du Songjue glanced at Bai Shijin. Bai Shijin nodded and said, I called you here to discuss it. He then looked at Lu Ming, Yen Kuangtu, and the others and said, Why don't you wait outside the hall? We need to discuss it. Sure, please go ahead. Lu Ming brought his fists together and walked out of the hall with Yen Kuangtu. It's almost done, but it's impossible for Lu Ming to take charge of the Talisman Puppet Sect. I think the Talisman Puppet Sect will give Lu Ming some tests. Supreme Nine Sons said, There's no problem with a test. Lu Ming smiled confidently. Following this, they waited in silence. This wait lasted for 3 hours. Only then did someone inform them to re-enter the main hall. Lu Ming, you're still young and your cultivation is still low. I'm afraid most people won't be convinced if you take charge of the Talisman Puppet Sect, which will only bring more trouble. Let's discuss with the elders and make you one of the Zongzi candidates. What do you think? Bai Shijin was the first to speak. Chapter 861. Thank you so much, seniors. Lu Ming cupped his fists and thanked them. It was already very rare to become a Zongzi candidate. After all, Lu Ming had just arrived, and he had to rely on the deterrence of Yan Kuangtu and Supreme Nine Yang to achieve this. If he had come alone, these big shots would not have compromised, and he would not have had a chance to show off. First, he would become a Zongzi candidate. Then, he would have to fight for it himself. Yes, Du Songjue and the others nodded. They were satisfied with Lu Ming's humble attitude. First, you can become a Zongzi candidate. But if you want to become an official Zongzi and take charge of the Talisman Puppet Sect in the future, there is another condition. Du Songjue said slowly. Here it comes. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. He knew that there must be a condition. It could not be that simple. Senior, please tell me. Lu Ming said, the condition is that you must stand out in the upcoming Battle of Providence and win first place. Then, after the Battle of Providence, you can immediately become an official Zongzi. Du Songjue said. Then, the sect leaders and elders of the Talisman Puppet Sect, Talisman Faction, and Puppet Faction all stared at Lu Ming. Before Lu Ming could speak, Yan Kuangtu shouted, What? Win first place in the Battle of Providence. How is that possible? Lu Ming has only cultivated for a short time. You are deliberately making things difficult for him. This condition is too difficult. Change it. Win first place in the Battle of Providence. Even though Yan Kuangtu was mentally prepared, he was still shocked. He did not doubt Lu Ming's talent, but Lu Ming's cultivation time was shorter than the other geniuses. The top 100 geniuses on the list of top 1,000 talents were each more abnormal than the other. The top 10 geniuses were even more terrifying. Moreover, there were many new geniuses who were also very bright. No one knew how strong they were. This was only for the human clan. The heavenly demon tribe also had many descendants with powerful bloodlines. It was too difficult to win first place. They were deliberately making things difficult for him. Yan Kuangtu, this condition is indeed difficult, but to break through to the martial emperor realm and fight against DE is even more difficult. In the Eastern Wasteland, there is only one martial emperor every few thousand years. How many geniuses will there be in the Eastern Wasteland? It's hard to count. Even in this golden age, where geniuses come forth in large numbers, those who can break through to the martial emperor realm in the future are few and far between. Lu Ming must suppress this era. Only then will he have the opportunity to break through to the martial emperor realm. Only then will he have the opportunity to fight and even defeat DE. Meng Chong's eyes shone brightly as he shouted. Yan Kuangtu remained silent. He knew that what Meng Chong said made sense. Good. I agree. A clear voice suddenly rang out. Many people's eyes lit up as they looked at Lu Ming. Lu Ming stood quietly in the hall. His body was ramrod straight, and his eyes were filled with determination and confidence. First place in the Battle of Providence. He had to do it. He had to do it. Just like what Meng Chong said, if he couldn't do it, how could he fight against DE? Anyone who could reach the martial emperor realm was a legend, and he had to create his own legend. Although he knew that it would be difficult, there was only motivation when there was pressure. Good, then it's a deal. If you can obtain first place in the Battle of Providence, you will bring great luck to the Talisman Puppet Sect. At that time, I will not go back on my words and will assist you to become the Talisman Puppet Sect Master. Anyone who wants to stop you will have to go through me first. Du Songjue stood up. His voice was sonorous and powerful. In the past, the marionette sect wanted to rely on Martial Emperor Di because they were afraid that the Talisman Puppet Sect would be destroyed. They just wanted to leave behind some legacy, not because they were afraid of death. This is also what I want to say. Furthermore, Lu Ming, if you really obtain first place, I believe that no one in the Talisman Puppet Sect will object. Bai Shijin also spoke. The other founding elders also nodded their heads. Seniors, don't worry. Lu Ming will do it. Lu Ming said in a firm voice. All right, it's settled then. One more thing. It's better if you don't use your real name now. If Di knows that you're here at the Talisman Puppet Sect, it will be troublesome. You can use a fake name for now, Bai Shijin suggested. I'll use the name Tianyun from today onward, Lu Ming said after a slight hesitation. Tianyun. He had used the name Tianyun in the Blazing Sun Empire, but not many people knew about it. All right, that's all for today. I'll send out a notice in a few days to inform the whole sect that you've become a Zongzi candidate. Farewell. Du Songjue rose from his seat and left. Meng Chong and the others also rose from their seats and left. In the end, the founding elders of the Talisman faction left too. Only Bai Shijin, Yan Kuangtu, and Lu Ming were left in the hall. Lu Ming, it's up to you now. I'll give you the token of a Zongzi candidate in a few days. At that time, you'll be able to enter the sacred cultivation grounds of the Talisman Puppet Sect, as you wish. Also, I've already informed my disciple to arrange a new place for you to stay later. Bai Shijin said with a smile. Thank you, Senior Bai. Lu Ming thanked him sincerely. This time, Bai Shijin had helped him a lot by standing on his side. At this moment, a round bead flew out from between Lu Ming's eyebrows. It was Supreme Nine Sun's soul-gathering bead. It flew to Yan Kuangtu, who grabbed it. Lu Ming, you'll cultivate in the Talisman Puppet Sect from now on. I'll bring my master to find some treasures to help him condense his soul force, Yan Kuangtu said. Lu Ming nodded and said, I hope Senior Nine Suns can recover soon. As the three were talking, a young woman walked in. The woman was in her early 20s. She had an impressive figure and wore a red dress. She was very beautiful. Master, what can I do for you? The young woman glanced at Lu Ming and Yan Kuangtu curiously, then bowed to Bai Shijin. Qi Shui, you're here. Let me introduce you. This is Tianyun. He's new to the Talisman Puppet Sect and will cultivate in the Talisman Puppet Sect from now on. During this period, take care of him. Also, Tianyun will move into the Cloud Peak residence. Bai Shijin said to the young woman, What? You want him to move into the Cloud Peak residence? No, Master, I don't agree. I used to live there alone. The young woman immediately shouted with dissatisfaction. Why not? The Cloud Peak residence has the inscription eye, so it's easy to sense the inscription law. How can I let you monopolize such a good place? Tianyun must move there. If you don't agree, you can move out. Bai Shijin said with a sullen face. The young woman's face turned pale, and she stopped talking. Her eyes were misty as she looked at Bai Shijin. Her master usually doted on her the most, but today she was scolded because of an outsider, causing her to feel extremely wronged. Tianyun, this is my youngest disciple, Bai Qi Shui. She's been spoiled by me. Please get along with her in the future. Bai Shijin said with a smile. Greetings, Miss Bai. Lu Ming brought his fists together at Bai Qi Shui. Humph. Chapter 862. Qi Shui, what kind of attitude is this? Well, now, take Tianyun to Cloud Peak residence and have a look around. Bai Shijin ordered. Bai Qishui stomped his feet. Without looking at Lu Ming, he pouted and turned to leave. Lu Ming touched his nose with a wry smile. He really wanted to suggest that Lu Ming arrange another residence for him. It would be more peaceful if he was alone. But thinking that Cloud Peak residence was probably very special and was specially arranged by Shijin, Lu Ming did not say anything. He said goodbye to Yen Guangtu and Bai Shijin, and followed by Qi Shui. After Lu Ming and Bai Qi Shui left, Yen Guangtu looked at Bai Shijin with a faint smile and said, Bai Shijin, you are really an old fox. What are you planning to do by arranging such a beautiful disciple to live with Lu Ming? Ahem. Bai Shijin coughed a few times and said with a red face, Brother Yen, you think too much. Lu Ming is a genius. I just want my disciple to learn more from Lu Ming. As for the sparks between the young people, it's all up to fate. Ha ha ha. Bai Shijin laughed awkwardly. The conference hall was in the center of the Tai Chi Yin-Yang fish. Lu Ming followed by Qi Shui out of the conference hall and walked in the direction of the Yin-Yang fish. Along the way, Bai Qi Shui pouted and did not say a word. She did not even look at Lu Ming and flew forward. Lu Ming smiled wryly and could only follow her. The Yin and Yang mountain was very magnificent and covered a large area. There were countless mountains, lakes, and grotto heavens on top of it. The two flew for more than 100,000 miles, passing countless mountains and rivers along the way, and finally flew to a peak surrounded by clouds and mist. On top of the mountain peak, there was a courtyard that was built very exquisitely. This was Cloud Peak residence. What a wonderful place! As soon as he landed on this mountain peak, Lu Ming's eyes brightened. Within his spiritual sea, he could feel the spiritual fire jumping about. It was as if it could easily sense the existence of the law of inscription. From the law of inscription, it could absorb the power of inscription and enhance his spiritual fire. Lu Ming sighed inwardly. The world was truly wondrous. There were all sorts of wondrous places. Some places had spiritual eyes, and the spiritual qi was extremely rich. In some places, there were Tao eyes that allowed one to comprehend the will of heaven and earth more clearly. But here, there was the eye of inscription, and it was easier to sense the inscription laws and absorb the power of inscription. No wonder Bai Shijin arranged for him to come here. He also hoped that he could improve faster before the War of Providence. Bai Qi Snow opened the door and walked in. Lu Ming also followed in. As soon as he entered, Lu Ming saw that there were some platforms in the courtyard. On the platforms, there were all kinds of materials. Lu Ming glanced at them and knew that they were materials for refining various runes and inscription symbol scrolls. It seemed like Bai Qi Snow often refined runes here. That room is yours. Bai Qi Snow pointed to a room on the left and spoke for the first time. Her voice was crisp and very pleasant to the ear. Yes. Lu Ming nodded. Also, let me tell you, the things in this courtyard are all materials for me to refine inscription symbol scrolls. You don't understand, so don't touch them. You understand? Bai Qi Snow looked at Lu Ming. In the Talisman Puppet sect, she had never seen Lu Ming. Among the geniuses of the Talisman Puppet sect, there was no such person as Lu Ming. She didn't know where her master found this person. She actually regarded him so highly and even allowed him to stay in the Cloud Peak residence. But in her heart, since he wasn't a genius of the Talisman Puppet sect, then his inscription Tao definitely wouldn't be good. She was really afraid that Lu Ming would destroy her materials and disturb her cultivation. Okay, I won't touch them. Lu Ming nodded. He couldn't be bothered to lower himself to the level of a little girl. Immediately after, Lu Ming looked around and walked into the room on the left and closed the door. Humph, I'm cultivating here alone, and I'm so free. Master even arranged for someone to come in, and it's a man. I have to think of a way to make him unable to stay here and voluntarily leave. Bai Chi Snow looked at Lu Ming's door, and her eyes spun. I got it. It's his first time here, so he definitely doesn't know anything. After that, I'll just ignore him. What did he ask me? I'll say, I don't know, and ignore him. Let's see how long he can stay here. Thinking of this, Bai Chi Snow's face revealed a smile, and her mood became better. She began to study the inscription symbol scrolls in the courtyard. This place is really strange. My spirit fire is about to break through. Let's try it out. Immediately, Lu Ming sat down cross-legged and activated the underworld god observation. Immediately, his mind seemed to pass through layers of voids and enter the inscription law. The surrounding inscription power was endless and very clear. It was as if Lu Ming could quickly absorb it with a thought. Immediately, he began to cultivate. Wisps of inscription power passed through layers of voids and fell into Lu Ming's sea of consciousness. They were absorbed by the spirit fire. Lu Ming's spirit fire slowly became more vigorous. In his sea of consciousness, 4 blue spirit lamps were burning fiercely and had reached the limit. He was only 1 step away from igniting 5. It's really strange. Compared to other places, the absorption of inscription power is dozens of times faster. Coupled with my underworld god observation, it's even more amazing. Lu Ming was shocked and worked even harder to cultivate. In the blink of an eye, a day and a night had passed. In his sea of consciousness, the flames of the 4 blue spirit lamps had reached the limit. Suddenly, a blue flame appeared in the 5th spirit lamp and jumped in the air. The 5th spirit lamp was lit. After a while, Lu Ming opened his eyes. 5 blue spirit lamps. Now, my spirit power is incomparably majestic. I wonder what level it has reached. Lu Ming pondered for a moment. Then, he waved his fingers and started to inscribe in the air. Inscriptions appeared and shone as if they were about to be inscribed in the air. In an instant, a formation was formed and embedded in the void, shining with a faint light. Unfortunately, after 10 breaths of time, the spirit formation collapsed. There's still a gap. My spirit power is still not enough to inscribe formations in the void. Perhaps, after igniting 1 or 2 more spirit lamps, I can inscribe formations in the void. Lu Ming thought to himself, if others knew about this, their jaws would drop. It was very difficult to inscribe formations in the void. One had to reach the 7th level of true inscription master, which was equivalent to the spirit embryo realm. Moreover, a true inscription master who had just broken through to the 7th level couldn't do it. Inscribing formations in the void couldn't stay for long. Only an expert among the 7th level inscription masters could do it. As for Lu Ming, he was only a 6th level inscription master. The formations he inscribed could already stay in the void for a short period of time. He believed that if his spirit power was stronger, he would really be able to inscribe formations in the void. This was extremely shocking. A 6th level inscription master could inscribe formations in the void. Since ancient times, not many people could do it. Once Lu Ming reached that level, his battle strength would increase rapidly, and the restrictions of the path of inscription would be even fewer. With my current battle strength, I'm still far from being number 1 in the Battle of Providence. It's not realistic for me to rush up in a short period of time. The martial Tao and the path of inscription have to advance together and cooperate with each other to unleash a great power. Only then will I have a greater chance. The most important thing now is to raise the 9 dragons bloodline to the level of a god bloodline. The talisman puppet sect focuses on the path of inscription. I believe they have a lot of demonic beast blood essence. I'd better go buy some demonic beast blood essence first. Chapter 863. As soon as he walked out of the door, he saw Bai Qi Shui in the courtyard, concentrating on refining an inscription scroll. A piece of white paper made of a special material was spread out on the platform. Bai Qi Shui frowned, and a blue mental flame flickered on her fingertips. Some powdery materials were sucked into the air, and under Bai Qi Shui's fingers, they turned into lines of inscriptions and sank into the white paper. On the white paper, lines of inscriptions would appear, intertwining with each other, beautiful and gorgeous. 6th grade 7th layer, Heavenly Fire Sword. Lu Ming could tell at a glance that Bai Qi Shui was refining a level 6 7th level Heavenly Fire Divine Sword inscription talisman scroll. Once this inscription talisman scroll was activated, it could release a Heavenly Fire Divine Sword. Its power was equivalent to the attack power of a level 7 spiritual sea realm. Lu Ming was not in a hurry to leave. His figure silently appeared behind Bai Qi Shui, and he watched with interest. Bai Qi Shui's technique was very exquisite. The speed of inscription and her control of the mental flame were also very exquisite. Her use of the mental flame has already reached the late stage of minute subtlety, as expected of Bai Shijin's disciple. Amazing! Lu Ming praised in his heart. An inscription master's battle prowess was not only related to the strength of the mental flame, but also to the use of the mental flame. If one's use of the mental flame reached an extremely profound level, they could defeat the strong as the weak, just like in martial arts, surpassing levels to fight. The use of the mental flame was divided into 5 levels: adept, minute subtlety, hard intent, and shenhe. Each level was divided into early, middle, late, and peak. Generally speaking, a 6th grade inscription master who could reach minute subtlety was already considered a genius. The 3rd level, heart intent, usually required a 7th grade inscription master to master. Intent manipulation required a level 8 inscription master to grasp it. As for shenhe, it required a level 9 emperor to grasp it. Bai Qi Shui was young, and to be able to master the mental flame to the late stage of minute subtlety was already very rare. She could be considered a peerless genius. Bai Qi Shui's fingers moved in the air like flowing water. Lines of inscriptions flew into the white paper. The Heavenly Fire Sword inscription scroll was about to be refined. Suddenly, a burst of green smoke came out of the scroll, and the entire scroll burst into flames, burning fiercely and turned into ashes in the blink of an eye. Failed again, what's going on? Could it be that I can't inscribe a 6th grade, 7th grade inscription scroll with my cultivation? Bai Qi Shui gritted her teeth and frowned. At this moment, she noticed something strange behind her. She turned around and saw Lu Ming sizing her up. "Ah, what are you doing?" Bai Qi Shui was startled and almost jumped up like a frightened rabbit. "I didn't do anything. I just happened to see you refining talismans, so I took a few more glances." Lu Ming smiled faintly. "Look at me refining talismans. Can you understand it? You scared me. Don't hide behind me sneakily in the future, or I'll report you to Master." Bai Qi Shui patted her towering chest and glared at Lu Ming. "Okay, I won't peek in the future. By the way, where can I buy materials, treasures, spiritual herbs, and so on?" Lu Ming asked. "You want to buy things?" "I don't know." Bai Qi Shui rolled her eyes. "You don't know?" Lu Ming was stunned and said, "Then where did you get these materials?" "It's none of your business." Bai Qi Shui pouted. Lu Ming was a little amused. Bai Qi Shui was really a little girl. Was she deliberately making things difficult for him? I remember Senior by Jean asked you to take care of me. You didn't even tell me this, so I can only send a message to Senior by. Lu Ming sighed. Wait a minute. Bai Qi Shue was shocked. If Lu Ming sent a message to Bai Jean, she would probably be scolded again. These things can be bought in the treasure pavilion. Don't ask me where to go. I don't have time to take you there. Here is a map. Take it and see. Bai Qi Shue had no choice but to take out a map and give it to Lu Ming. At the same time, she cursed Lu Ming for not being a man and using her master to pressure her. Lu Ming opened the map and looked at it. Then he put it away and said with a smile, "Thank you, Miss Bai." With that, he walked toward the main entrance. When he reached the main entrance, Lu Ming seemed to have thought of something. He stopped in his tracks and said, "Miss Bai, when refining the heavenly fire divine sword talisman, why don't you lighten the heat inscription on the 136th rune by 20% and increase the sharpness inscription on the 565th rune by 20%? Also, delay the use of the flint powder for 5 breaths." After that, Lu Ming strode out of the door and went towards the treasure pavilion. Bai Qi Shue was stunned for a moment. Then she coldly snorted and muttered, "You don't know how to pretend to know." "Nonsense. Refining the heavenly fire divine sword charm scroll. How can it be so easy? I just need to modify a few places. I'm just not skilled enough. If I continue to practice, I will definitely succeed." After muttering, Bai Qi Shue continued to seriously inscribe the heavenly fire divine sword charm scroll. But then she continued to inscribe 2 times in a row, both of which ended in failure. The talisman paper burned and turned into ashes. What's going on? Could it be that I really can't inscribe a 6th level, 7th level inscription charm scroll? If I can't even inscribe a 6th level, 7th level inscription charm scroll, I have no hope of getting an opportunity in the Battle of Destiny half a year later. Bai Qi Shue frowned and was secretly angry. Why don't we try that guy's method? Lu Ming's words suddenly flashed in Bai Qi Shue's mind. Then she shook her head and thought, that guy is probably talking nonsense. Why should I believe him? Although she thought so, Lu Ming's words still lingered in her mind. Damn guy, he deliberately disturbed my state of mind. I'll try it once. If it doesn't work, I'll report to Master and drive him out of Cloud Peak residence. Hey, yes, I'm so smart. At the thought of using this method to drive Lu Ming out of Cloud Peak residence, Bai Qi Shue laughed happily again. She immediately took out a piece of talisman paper and began to inscribe the Heavenly Fire Sword talisman scroll. This time, she did the key points according to Lu Ming's method. Her fingers trembled slightly, and inscriptions flew into the talisman paper. They intertwined on the talisman paper and formed a mysterious and beautiful pattern. Buzz. A moment later, when Bai Qi Shue finished inscribing the last inscription, the talisman paper shone brightly, and there was a faint sound of a sword. A mysterious array was shining on the talisman paper. Did it succeed? Bai Qi Shue's eyes almost popped out. Her small mouth was wide open as she stared at the Heavenly Fire Sword talisman scroll in front of her. She actually succeeded. She never thought that according to Lu Ming's method, she would actually succeed and successfully refine the Heavenly Fire Sword talisman scroll. How was this possible? Could it be that this guy is a hidden expert? A thought flashed in Bai Qi Shue's mind. Then she quickly shook her head and muttered, "Impossible, I've seen all the geniuses of the Talisman Puppet sect. There's no such person. Outside of the Talisman Puppet sect, which youth's inscription technique can be compared to the geniuses of the Talisman Puppet sect. That guy must be lucky. He guessed right. Yes, he's lucky." Chapter 864. Lu Ming followed the map and flew towards the 100 Treasure Pavilion. Not long after, a huge building appeared in front of Lu Ming. That was the 100 Treasure Pavilion. There was a place for talisman puppet sect disciples to buy and sell treasures. Moreover, cultivating the path of inscription required more materials and treasures than cultivating martial arts. Therefore, the 100 Treasure Pavilion of the Talisman Puppet Sect was very big and crowded. Lu Ming landed and walked towards the main hall. There were a lot of people in the main hall. There were many small rooms around the main hall, but there was a long queue. Lu Ming could only choose a room and started to line up. After half an hour, it was Lu Ming's turn. What do you need? Do you want to buy materials or sell materials? Lu Ming walked into a room. There was a counter in the room, and a beautiful young lady smiled at Lu Ming. I want to buy some demonic beast blood essence. Lu Ming said, Demonic beast blood essence. What grade and how much do you need? The young lady smiled and asked. There were many people coming to the Talisman Puppet Sect to buy demonic beast blood essence every day, so it was nothing strange. Class 6 LV, 6 demonic beast blood essence, 50 sets. Class 7 LV, 6 demonic beast blood essence, 50 sets. Lu Ming thought for a moment and said, Class 6 LV6 and Class 7 LV6. The young lady was slightly stunned. Why? You don't have any? Lu Ming said, Yes, we don't have any in stock for this grade. You'll have to wait for a while. How about this? If you need it, you can pay a deposit in advance and come back when there's enough blood essence. What do you think? The young lady suggested. That's fine. How much is it? Lu Ming felt helpless. This was the only way. Class 6 LV6 demonic beast blood essence, 10 low-grade origin stones for 1 set. Class 7 LV6 demonic beast blood essence, 30 origin stones for 1 set. You can leave 500 origin stones as a deposit and come back 7 days later. What do you think? The young lady said. Lu Ming nodded and paid 500 origin stones as a deposit. At the same time, he sighed in his heart. The blood essence of demonic beasts was really expensive. If not for the large amount of resources left behind by Supreme Nine Yang, he would not have been able to afford it. After the battle in Julong City, the Temple of Paragon had been destroyed. However, the Nine Suns Sovereign had kept all the treasures and things he had left in the Temple of Paragon into a spatial ring. Otherwise, Lu Ming would have suffered a huge loss. Miss, I'll buy another batch of talisman papers. Lu Ming thought for a moment. Since the 9 Dragons bloodline couldn't be improved for the time being, it would be better to buy a batch of symbol paper and inscribe some inscription scrolls. They would definitely be useful in the Battle of Destiny. It was said that there were many restrictions in the War of Providence. For example, inscription talisman scrolls, talismans, and other treasures could only be used to inscribe their own inscriptions. If they brought others' inscriptions, they would not be able to use them. Otherwise, if he brought a few 7th or 8th level inscription masters' inscription symbol scrolls, then there would be no need to compete. He would just sweep them all away. That would be meaningless. Only those inscribed by oneself could be considered one's own strength, and only then could one bring it in and use it. Immediately, Lu Ming bought 1,000 talisman papers of different levels and spent 100 origin stones. Relatively speaking, the talisman papers were much cheaper. After buying the talisman papers, Lu Ming left the 100 Treasure Pavilion and returned to Cloud Peak residence. As soon as he walked in, he saw Bai Qi Shui sitting there in a daze. When she saw Lu Ming return, Bai Qi Shui's eyes lit up. She carefully sized up Lu Ming. She looked left and right, up and down. In the end, Lu Ming was a little embarrassed. Ahem, Miss Bai, what are you looking at? I've only left for a while. Don't tell me you miss me already? Lu Ming coughed a few times and laughed. Miss you? You wish. Let me ask you, how did you know that the heavenly fire sword symbol scroll needed to be modified like that? Bai Qi glared at Lu Ming and snorted coldly. You succeeded in refining it? I thought you wouldn't do it according to my method. Lu Ming said with a smile that was not a smile. Humph, I was just casually trying. I was lucky to succeed. You haven't said how you knew. Bai Qi asked, emphasizing the word lucky. Lu Ming laughed in his heart. This little girl really cared about her face. Then he smiled and said, actually, I guessed blindly. Guessed? Humph, as expected. Bai Qi pouted and revealed an as-expected expression. Lu Ming was a little confused. Bai Qi believed him? All right, don't touch the things here. I'll go out and buy some things. After saying that, Bai Qi ran out like a snowstorm. I'll also inscribe a batch of inscription talisman scrolls. Lu Ming waved his hand, and a piece of snow-white talisman paper was spread out on the platform. His fingers danced in the air as he began to inscribe inscriptions. The talisman Lu Ming wanted to inscribe was called the Fire Prison Talisman. It was a Class 8 Level 6 trapping talisman. To be honest, this was Lu Ming's first time inscribing a talisman. However, his mind was filled with all sorts of knowledge about inscriptions from Lian Tsam. As Lu Ming's fingers moved, the knowledge slowly came into play. 10 minutes later, a fire prison talisman was successfully inscribed. 10 minutes. Too slow. Continue. Lu Ming frowned. He felt that it was still too slow. If others knew about this, they would be so angry that they would vomit blood. It had to be known that this was a 6th, level 8th layer inscription symbol scroll. Not only that, but this was the first time that Lu Ming had inscribed an inscription symbol scroll. It had only taken him 10 minutes, which was a terrifying speed. However, Lu Ming was still not satisfied. For the second talisman, his speed was slightly faster. It only took him 9 minutes. As he continued to inscribe, the knowledge and experience in his mind began to integrate with the actual operation. Lu Ming's inscription speed became faster and faster. Moreover, Lu Ming did not need any materials to inscribe inscriptions. This was because his flame of vigor was extremely strong. He could just use it as a substitute. 2 hours later, Lu Ming inscribed a fire prison talisman. It only took him 3 minutes. If this speed was known to others, it would scare them to death. My mastery of the flame of vigor is still not high. It's only at the peak of refinement. This needs to be honed. Lu Ming thought to himself. His biggest advantage was the strength of his flame of vigor. Every level was perfect. Moreover, he had Lian Song's cultivation experience. Therefore, his inscription speed was terrifying. However, he also knew that inscribing the fire prison talisman in 3 minutes was his limit. If he wanted to break through, he had to break through the realm of the flame of vigor. In fact, he had not been practicing inscription for long. His mastery of the flame of vigor had reached the peak of refinement. This was already a terrifying feat. Bai Qi was extremely talented. She had practiced for more than 10 years, but she was only at the late stage of refinement. Even Dandan had sighed at Lu Ming's terrifying inscription talent. However, Lu Ming was not satisfied. What he needed to do was not something that others could compare to. Therefore, he had to do it better than others. Next, he continued to inscribe symbols. This time, he inscribed a 6th, level 9th layer talisman, the 9-sword array talisman. Chapter 8, 65. Lu Ming concentrated, his fingers constantly waving, and inscriptions flew into the talisman paper. A 6th, level 9th layer talisman was 10 times more complex than a 6th, level 8th layer talisman, and the time it took was naturally longer. This time, Lu Ming spent a full hour and a half to successfully inscribe. At the moment of successful inscription, Lu Ming could clearly feel that in the unseen world, the log of inscription descended a trace of power of inscription, fusing into Lu Ming's spiritual fire and strengthening it, refining a sixth level 9th layer talisman. The power of inscription descending from the law of inscription is more than 10 times stronger than refining a 6th level 8th layer talisman. Lu Ming's mouth revealed a trace of a smile, and he continued to refine. As Lu Ming continued to refine, his inscription speed also became faster and faster. Just as Lu Ming was concentrating on inscription, Bai Qi Shui had returned to Cloud Peak residence at some unknown time. This guy is inscribing a talisman? Humph! What kind of high-grade talisman can this guy inscribe? Hey, no, this is a 6th level 9th layer talisman. A 9th level sword array talisman. Bai Qi Shui was quite disdainful at first, and casually glanced at it a few times, but after a glance, her eyes could no longer move away. She stared straight at Lu Ming, watching Lu Ming's fingers constantly waving in the air, and her mouth opened so wide that she could swallow a duck egg. She could see that Lu Ming was actually inscribing a 6th level 9th layer talisman. A 6th level 9th layer talisman was already a top 6th level talisman. Lu Ming's path of inscription had actually reached this level. It had to be known that she had only succeeded in inscribing a 6th level 7th layer talisman for the first time under Lu Ming's guidance. Bai Qi Shui stared blankly, and the more she looked, the more shocked she was. The usage of spiritual flames is at the peak of the minute subtlety realm. Also, how can his spiritual energy be so terrifying? He doesn't even need to use materials. Wait, how can his technique be so exquisite? How can his speed be so fast? Bai Qi mumbled in a daze. The astonishment and disbelief in his eyes grew thicker. Night fell, but Lu Ming did not seem to be tired. After he finished inscribing one talisman, he immediately started inscribing the next one. His speed was getting faster and faster. Later on, it only took him half an hour to inscribe a level 6 9th tier talisman scroll. In one breath, Lu Ming engraved 15 pieces of paper before he stopped and let out a long sigh. At this moment, he felt that his spiritual power was somewhat lacking. His spiritual flame was somewhat dim, and he needed to rest to recover. Miss Bai, you're back. At this time, Lu Ming discovered Bai Qi Snow. Pervert! Bai Qi stared blankly at Lu Ming and blurted out a few words. Ah, you met a pervert? Where is it? Lu Ming's eyes darted around. You're a pervert, Bai Qi Snow muttered. Me? Lu Ming was speechless. Who exactly are you? The Tao of inscription is actually so powerful. Bai Qi Snow opened her eyes wide and swept her gaze over Lu Ming's body. I'm Tianyun. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. Could it be that this thick-skinned girl saw something? I know all the geniuses of the Talisman Puppet sect. Why have I never seen someone like you? Could it be? As she spoke, Bai Qi Snow circled around Lu Ming and sized him up carefully. Could it be that you're a genius that Master secretly nurtured? Or are you Master's illegitimate son? Yes, it must be so. No wonder he asked you to stay in the Cloud Peak residence. Bai Qi Snow became more and more excited as she spoke. Her eyes were shining as if she had discovered a huge secret. Lu Ming's forehead was full of black lines. Isn't this girl's imagination a little too rich? Miss Bai, I'm not secretly nurtured by your master, nor am I his illegitimate son. I just came to the Talisman Puppet sect not long ago. Lu Ming explained, helplessly. You're not. That's impossible. Bai Qi Snow rubbed her chin as her large eyes blinked. Then her eyeballs spun around. No one knew what she was thinking. After a while, Bai Chi Snow's face revealed an indescribable smile, causing Lu Ming's heart to tighten. He didn't know what this girl was thinking. Tianyun, I suddenly realized that you're not bad. How about this? I won't object to you staying in the Cloud Peak residence in the future. But I have a condition. You have to teach me the Tao of Inscription. I realized that some of your techniques are even more exquisite than my master's. Yes, it's decided. You can rest today and teach me tomorrow. Bai Chi Snow grinned as she finished speaking and ran back to her room. Leaving behind Lu Ming in a daze, he roared in his heart, I haven't agreed yet. Just like this, as a condition of staying in the Cloud Peak residence, Lu Ming took out 2 hours every day to guide Bai Chi Snow in her cultivation of the Tao of Inscription. Lu Ming's Tao of Inscription was inherited from Lien Tsang. How experienced and insightful was his vision. He was often able to point out Bai Chi Snow's flaws and point out the main points in one sentence. In a short 2 days, Bai Chi Snow's understanding of the Tao of Inscription had deepened by a level. At the same time, Lu Ming became more and more unfathomable in her heart. Tianyun, I'll bring you out for a walk today. You haven't taken a good look around the Talisman Puppet Sect, right? There are many good places in the Talisman Puppet Sect. On the morning of the 3rd day, Bai Chi Snow pulled Lu Ming and ran out. Lu Ming was also rather curious as he followed Bai Chi Snow. Along the way, they saw many strange places. Some had beautiful sceneries, some were mysterious and profound, and it broadened Lu Ming's horizons. A mountain peak appeared in front of them. At the foot of the mountain, there was an enormous cave that they saw people entering and exiting. That's the Myriad Formation Cave. There are countless formations in the cave that were inscribed by the experts of the Talisman Puppet Sect. Some are incomplete formations, some are complete and can be comprehended by future generations. Come, let's go take a look. Bai Chi Snow explained, after which the two of them landed at the entrance of the cave. There were people guarding the entrance of the cave. However, Bai Chi Snow's identity was no small matter. She was the little disciple of the Talisman Faction's master, Bai Shijin. Naturally, she could enter without any obstructions. As soon as he entered the cave, Lu Ming felt a complicated aura pervading the air. Lu Ming swept his gaze and realized that the walls on both sides of the cave were inscribed with formation diagrams. There were various kinds of formation diagrams that emitted different auras. At a glance, the cave was endlessly deep and stretched into the distance. There were countless formation diagrams on both sides of the cave. Lu Ming observed carefully. He recognized some of the formation diagrams, but he didn't recognize most of them. Moreover, there was a detailed explanation below every formation diagram. There were even some incomplete formations that were incomparably mysterious and left for future generations to comprehend and decipher. Below, there were also some insights. Good place. This is truly a good place. Lu Ming looked at more than 10 formation diagrams and felt that he had gained a lot. This Myriad Formation Cave was simply an endless wealth left behind by the ancestors of the Talisman Puppet Sect. Lu Ming walked forward as he observed. Suddenly, he realized that there was a fork at the side of the cave. He walked in, and there was only one formation diagram in the fork. Buzz. When he saw the formation diagram, the heavens and earth trembled. He discovered that his surroundings had changed. He was now in a boundless void, and in the void, there were 8 streams of sword chi. The sword chi was incomparably gigantic, like pillars that supported the heavens. They descended from the heavens, suppressing everything in all directions and destroying everything. The powerful sword intense slashed in Lu Ming's direction with a terrifying might, just like when he had faced Martial Dominator DE at 9 Dragons City. Shit. Chapter 866. Bam. Bam. In the next moment, his surroundings changed. He was still in the fork. He retreated and hit the wall behind him. His back was drenched in cold sweat, and he was gasping for breath. What a powerful array diagram! Lu Ming was shocked and did not dare to look at the array diagram again. Tianan, are you okay? Why did you go to look at the array diagram? It was carved by a supreme martial artist imitating a level 9 array diagram. Only a level 8 inscriber can look at it. At the fork, Bai Qi Shui looked at Lu Ming with a worried expression. Why didn't I see a level 9 array diagram? Lu Ming was depressed. With his current cultivation, looking at a level 9 array diagram was like looking for trouble. It was good enough that he was not injured. Isn't it written here? Bai Qi Shui pointed at the side of the fork. There was a jade token there with the words, "Only a level 8 inscriber can enter," written on it. Lu Ming smiled bitterly. He was too focused just now and did not notice it. This is a good place. If you have time later, you can come here to comprehend it, Lu Ming said with a smile as he walked out of the fork. The two of them walked around for a while, and then left. They planned to walk around other places. However, as soon as they walked out of the Cave of 1,000 Formations, they were blocked by a few people. There were 3 young men. The leader was a young man with a hooked nose. His eyes flashed with sharpness from time to time. "Su Shan, what are you doing? Get out of my way." Bai Qi Shui's face darkened when she saw the young man and shouted, "Bai Qi Shui, what are you shouting for? What right do you have to scold me? Humph, what a slut. My brother is pursuing you, but you are hiding a wild man in Cloud Peak residence." Su Shan sneered and looked at Lu Ming. In the past few days, the news of a young man living in Cloud Peak residence had spread and caused a great uproar among the young disciples. Bai Qi Shui, the youngest disciple of the leader of the Talisman faction, Bai Shijin, not only did she have a noble status, but she also possessed an outstanding beauty. In the Talisman puppet sect, countless geniuses and geniuses were pursuing her, but none of them were able to catch Bai Qi Shui's attention. Bai Qi Shui did not even like the supreme talents on the list of top 1,000 talents. But now, a young man was living in Cloud Peak residence, which was regarded as a sacred place in the eyes of many male disciples. How could this not be shocking? Countless people were eager to find trouble with Lu Ming. Su Shan did not expect to bump into Bai Qi Shui here. He immediately stopped the two of them. "What did you say?" Bai Qi Shui was so angry that his face turned red, and he glared at Su Shan. "Am I wrong?" Su Shan snorted coldly. He then looked at Lu Ming and said, "Lad, are you the one staying in Yunfeng residence?" "That's right." Lu Ming frowned and said, "Young man, I advise you to get out of Cloud Peak residence. Otherwise, one day, your legs will be broken." Su Shan sneered, and jealousy flashed in his eyes. Where did this young man come from? How could he live in Cloud Peak residence? Not only did Cloud Peak residence have the inscribed eye, but it was also a sacred place to cultivate the spiritual fire. At the same time, a beauty like Bai Qi Shui lived with him. How could he not be jealous? I advise you to keep your mouth clean. Otherwise, one day, your face will be swollen. Lu Ming smiled faintly and replied, "By the side." Bai Qi Shui burst out laughing. Lu Ming was using Su Shan's words to retaliate against him. Su Shan's face darkened, and a sharp look flashed in his eyes. "Young man, I don't know when my face will be swollen, but today, your legs will be broken." Su Shan said coldly. He waved his hand, and a huge black bear appeared on the ground. It wasn't a real black bear, but a puppet. Its eyes emitted a cold light, and the moment it appeared, it let out a shocking roar. It was a puppet that was equivalent to the 6th layer of the spiritual ocean tier. At this moment, other people heard the commotion and came over. That's Su Shan, and by Qi Shui. I heard that a strange man lived in Cloud Peak residence recently. Could it be that young man, Su Shan's elder brother? He has been chasing after by Qi Shui. No wonder Su Shan would find trouble with that person. There's a good show to watch. That young man came from who knows where. He can live in Cloud Peak residence. He will be tortured sooner or later. It must be by Qi Shui's request. Otherwise, normal people wouldn't be able to live there. This young man doesn't know his place. If it were me, even if I had the chance, I would take the initiative to move out. Who knows how many people I would offend? Around them, some people were discussing in low voices. Su Shan, what are you doing? If you want to fight, I'll keep you company. Bai Qi Shui stepped out and stood in front of Lu Ming, glaring at Su Shan. Bai Qi Shui, it seems that this person is really your little lover. You're protecting him like this. Su Shan sneered. Bai Qi Shui blushed and said, Nonsense. Tianyan and I are just friends. Friends? Hee hee. Su Shan sneered and looked at Lu Ming, shouting, Brat, hiding behind a woman, what kind of man are you? If you have the guts, fight with me. Roar. The black bear puppet roared, emitting a violent aura. Since you're looking for a beating, I'll fulfill your wish. Lu Ming smiled faintly and stepped forward, passing by Qi Shui. Brat, watch me break your legs. Su Shan's face revealed a ferocious expression. His forehead glowed, and the black bear puppet roared angrily. It stomped on the ground and pounced at Lu Ming. Lu Ming swung his palm. Boom! The palm landed on the black bear puppet and sent it flying 1,000 meters away. It heavily smashed into the ground and turned into a pile of scrap metal. The scene instantly quieted down. A puppet that was equivalent to the 6th layer of the spiritual ocean realm was made of metal and was invulnerable. But now it was actually turned into scrap metal by Lu Ming's palm, which shocked everyone. Martial Dao, how is your martial Dao so strong? Su Shan reacted and shouted angrily. The talisman puppet sect mainly cultivated the Dao of inscription. They also cultivated martial Dao, but it was only auxiliary and wouldn't have a deep level. Lu Ming's martial Dao was actually so strong, which was rare in the talisman puppet sect. Of course, in the talisman puppet sect, there were some geniuses who were naturally suited to cultivate martial Dao. They would also choose to cultivate martial Dao, but there were very few of them. In fact, in the talisman puppet sect, those who mainly cultivated martial Dao would be looked down upon. You're looking for a beating. Lu Ming strode forward. Using martial Dao to cripple one of my puppets, what kind of ability is that? If you have the ability, then use the Dao of inscription to fight with me. Su Shan roared angrily and retreated. With a wave of his hand, 3 puppets appeared on the ground. They were all at the 6th layer of the spiritual ocean realm. Using the Dao of inscription? Sure. Lu Ming moved his hand, and an inscription scroll appeared. He opened it and poured in his spirit fire. The inscription scroll emitted a brilliant light, and 9 battle swords floated out. 6th layer, 9th layer inscription scroll. 9-sword array scroll. You cheated, you cheated. Su Shan shouted. Xiao, xiao. The 9 battle swords danced and cut the 3 puppets into pieces. Chapter 867. The crisp sound of the slap spread far and wide outside the 10,000 formation cave. Then Su Shan's pitiful cries could be heard. Pa! Then Lu Ming turned his hand and slapped Su Shan again. Su Shan was sent flying and heavily fell to the ground. Both sides of his face were swollen, and he was beyond recognition. The surrounding onlookers were stunned, including Bai Qi and Shui. Compared to martial artists, a duel between inscription masters was not as violent. There were very few people who would directly go on stage and slap others. This was the first time they had seen such a scene. You dare hit young Master Su? You're finished, you're finished. One of the youths who came with Su Shan pointed at Lu Ming and shouted. Lu Ming's hand moved, and a 9 extreme sword array appeared in his hand. He stared at the two youths and said, "What? Do you want to try? You're despicable. You're cheating. You didn't use an inscription scroll that you refined yourself. What kind of skill is that?" One of the youths shouted. When he saw the inscription scroll in Lu Ming's hand, he retreated again and again. Liao Tsong was deathly pale. They didn't think that Lu Ming would have such a high-level inscription scroll in his hands. They also didn't think that Lu Ming would be so shameless to use such an inscription scroll. They believed that such a high-level inscription scroll must have been bought by Lu Ming. It was impossible for him to refine it himself. There was an unwritten rule between inscription masters. In a fair duel between two inscription masters, one could not use an inscription scroll refined by another. That would not be a competition of strength, but a competition of wealth. Only in a life and death battle would one use it. Moreover, wanting to activate a high-level inscription scroll was not a simple matter. Who said I didn't refine it myself? Lu Ming curled his lips. This was clearly something that he had refined himself. You're shameless. Let's go, one of the youths said. Then he helped the dizzy Su Shan up and hurriedly left. The surrounding onlookers also shook their heads and looked at Lu Ming with disdain. They didn't believe that Lu Ming, this kid who had come out of nowhere, would be able to refine a 6th level, 9th level inscription symbol scroll. Youths who could refine level 6, level 9 inscriptions were the top 300 geniuses on the list of top 1,000 talents. They were as famous as the martial arts geniuses who had awakened the god-level bloodline. How could this unknown brat be a god-tier prodigy? Moreover, Lu Ming's martial arts were obviously not weak. Smashing a puppet at the 6th layer of the spiritual ocean tier into a pile of scrap metal with one slap, he obviously had high attainments in martial arts. Since the martial way was so profound, then it was impossible for the way of inscription to be so strong. If one were to say that Lu Ming was so strong in both aspects, then they wouldn't believe it even if they were beaten to death. Let's go. Lu Ming was disinclined to pay attention to the gazes of the surrounding people. He called out to Bai Qi and Snow, and then flew forward. Bai Qi Snow blinked her big eyes and followed him. Tianyun, I didn't expect your martial cultivation to be so powerful. You can shatter a Class 6 LV6 puppet with a single slap. What level has your martial cultivation reached? Are you practicing both martial arts and inscription? Along the way, Bai Qi Snow was extremely curious and asked several questions in a whisper. Lu Ming smiled bitterly and hurried on, too lazy to answer. Tianyun, Su Shan's elder brother, is a god-tier prodigy, ranked 299th on the list of top 1,000 talents. This time, you beat Su Shan, so his elder brother, the rising sun, may cause trouble for you. You have to be careful, Bai Qi Snow reminded him. Oh, is that so? Lu Ming nodded casually. After that, the two of them didn't go anywhere else and directly returned to Cloud Peak residence. In the blink of an eye, another 3 days passed. On this day, Lu Ming was inscribing inscriptions in the yard. After a few days of inscribing practice, Lu Ming's inscribing speed had become faster. It only took 20 minutes to inscribe a talisman scroll of the 9-level sword array. This speed was extremely amazing. If it were to spread out, it would scare a group of people to death. Beside him, Bai Qi Snow opened her eyes wide and stared at it without blinking, trying to extract what she needed from it. Before long, Lu Ming had inscribed another talisman scroll. Tianyun, with your inscribing speed and 100% success rate, even if you don't do anything else, You will make a fortune just by selling inscription talismans. Bai Chi Snow said with her eyes shining. How could others inscribe inscription talismans so fast? Moreover, they would fail and waste materials. Unlike Lu Ming, who didn't want any materials and only used talisman paper. With a 100% success rate, it would be strange if he didn't make a fortune. Lu Ming nodded. This was a good way to make money. In the future, when he lacked raw stones, he could consider refining inscription talismans to sell. The two of them chatted. From time to time, Lu Ming would guide Bai Chi Snow in refining. Hundreds of thousands of miles away from Cloud Peak residence, there was another mountain peak. On the mountain peak, there was also a courtyard. This courtyard was the courtyard of the god-level genius Rising Sunday. In the courtyard, Su Shan was crying in front of the rising sun. Big brother, you finally came out of seclusion. You must avenge me. That Tianyun is simply lawless and arrogant. Su Shan shouted. You mean that kid called Tianyun lives in Cloud Peak residence? The rising sun coldly said. His eyes were filled with killing intent and thick jealousy. Yes, big brother. I was fighting injustice for you, so I went to find that kid Tianyun to get the hell out of Cloud Peak residence. I didn't expect that he would use a 6th level, 9th layer inscription talisman to plot against me. Big brother, you must avenge me. Su Shan cried out pitifully and miserably. Don't worry. That guy actually dared to live in Cloud Peak residence. I will break his legs and make him get the hell out of Cloud Peak residence. The rising sun said. Dong. At this moment, a melodious bell sounded. This bell's sound came from the center of the talisman puppet sect. It seemed to be able to cross the endless space and spread throughout the entire Twin Forms mountain region. This is the signal bell. When the signal bell rings, it means that the sect has something important to report. Su Shan and the rising sun's expressions changed. Then, the two of them each took out a voice transmission jade talisman. When the signal bell rang, the sect would report something important to each disciple's voice transmission jade talisman. When the two of them saw the content of the voice transmission jade talisman, their expressions changed drastically. How is this possible? How is this possible? How can that Tianyun become a Zongzi candidate? Su Shan screamed in disbelief. The content of the voice transmission jade talisman was the news that the upper echelon of the talisman puppet sect wanted Tianyun to be promoted to a Zongzi candidate. Tianyun, the Tianyun who lived in Cloud Peak residence. The rising sun also widened his eyes in disbelief. That's right, it's him. How is this possible? How is this possible? Su Shan was still in disbelief. It was extremely difficult to become a Zongzi candidate. One had to obtain the approval of more than 60% of the founding elders of the Talisman faction and the Puppet faction before they could ascend to the throne of a Zongzi candidate. In the future, they would have a chance to compete for the position of Zongzi and eventually take charge of the Talisman Puppet sect. Chapter 868. Damn it, who is this Tianyun? How is he qualified to be a Zongzi candidate? Damn it! Rising Sun yelled. It was Rising Sun's dream to become a Zongzi candidate. He had been working hard for it, but now it was taken by a stranger. He was so jealous that he was about to go crazy. At this moment, the entire Talisman Puppet sect was confused. Who is Tianyun? Where did he come from? How is he qualified to be a Zongzi candidate? The elite's eyes lit up, especially those who were ranked in the top 300 of the list of top 1,000 talents. They were all competing for the Zongzi candidate, but now it was taken by a stranger. How could they be convinced? I'd like to see how capable this Tianyun is to become a Zongzi candidate. Go and find out more about this Tianyun. Everyone in Liangyi Mountain was shocked by the name Tianyun in Yun Peak residence. Bai Qi stared blankly at the voice transmission jade talisman in his hand, then stared at Lu Ming for a long time before he said, "You still say that you're not Master's illegitimate son, but now you're a Zongzi candidate." Lu Ming was speechless. "What is this? Don't tell me everyone has been notified." Lu Ming asked. "More or less. Almost all the Talisman Puppet Sect disciples in Liangyi Mountain have received the news." Bai Qi said. Lu Ming smiled bitterly and touched his nose. "Is there a need to make such a big fuss?" Lu Ming knew that there would be a lot of trouble in this way. "These guys are deliberately making trouble for me." Lu Ming sighed in his heart. He understood that Bai Shijin, Du Songjue, and the others were doing this on purpose. It was equivalent to indirectly challenging him. He was a stranger who had appeared out of nowhere and was appointed as a Zongzi candidate. How could those prodigies be convinced? They would definitely cause trouble for him. This was the test. "Forget it. I'll deal with it as it comes. At most, I'll go into seclusion and not come out." Lu Ming felt a headache coming on. He was not afraid of those people, but he was afraid of trouble. "Hey, you haven't answered me. Are you Master's illegitimate son or not?" Bai Qi's eyes widened, and he continued to ask curiously. Lu Ming was speechless. "Stop guessing. I didn't cultivate in the Talisman Puppet Sect." "You didn't cultivate in the Talisman Puppet Sect. Then where did you cultivate? In the territory of Emperor's territory?" Bai Qi asked curiously. "Something like that." Lu Ming said casually. "Really? Are you really cultivating in the territory of the Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace? Do you know Lu?" Bai Qi became excited and asked a few questions. "No." Lu Ming's heart jumped, and he hurriedly denied it. "You don't know Lu Ming?" "Humph, you're so ignorant. You don't even know Lu Ming." In the Battle of Nine Dragon City, Lu Ming pulled out the Divine Nine Dragon Cauldron and fought against 3 supreme martial artists. It was said that one of the supreme martial artists was almost killed by him. Even Martial Emperor Di took action. How can you not know such a person? He's my idol now. Bai Qi looked at Lu Ming with disdain, and then looked at the sky with a smitten look. Lu Ming was confused. Lu Ming is a peerless genius in my heart. He's comparable to the top 10 on the list of top 1,000 talents. Those people like the rising sun are far from him. Tianyun, although you're good, you're still far behind Lu Ming. Keep working hard. Bai Qi patted Lu Ming on the shoulder with a look of encouragement. I'll work hard. Work hard. Lu Ming's face was covered in cold sweat. At this moment, a Talisman Puppet Sect elder arrived, and Lu Ming heaved a sigh of relief. The elder was here to give Lu Ming the token that represented the candidate, Zongzi. With this token, Lu Ming could enter most places in the Talisman Puppet Sect at will, except for some important forbidden areas. In the next 2 days, Liangyi Mountain was very lively. Everyone was talking about Tianyun. However, no one dared to cause trouble for Lu Ming. They seemed to be waiting for someone else to go first and test the waters. 2 days later, Lu Ming left Cloud Peak residence and headed to Treasure Pavilion. 7 days had passed, and he went to collect the blood essence of the demonic beasts. Tianyun, that's Tianyun. Lu Ming was recognized as soon as he arrived at Treasure Pavilion. He's Tianyun? He's so young. What does he have to be a candidate, Zongzi? You don't know? But he must be outstanding in some way. Otherwise, why would the elders agree? I think he might be a disciple secretly groomed by one of the elders. He only appeared now that the Battle of Providence is about to begin. That's possible. There was a lot of discussion in the surroundings. Many people looked at Lu Ming curiously. Some of them were kind, but most of them were jealous. Lu Ming simply ignored these gazes and went to the counter that he had visited previously. Young master, you're Tianyan? The young lady at the counter widened her eyes and looked at Lu Ming curiously. If there's no one else, it's me. Pretty lady, have you collected the blood essence of the demonic beasts? Lu Ming asked. Yes, they're all here. Take a look. The young lady handed a storage ring to Lu Ming. Lu Ming took it and scanned it with his mind to confirm that it was correct. Then Lu Ming paid 2,500 origin stones, put away the blood essence of the demonic beasts, and walked out. Tianyan, stop! A cold shout sounded, and two figures blocked Lu Ming's way. Su Shan. Lu Ming saw at a glance that one of them was Su Shan. The other person looked somewhat similar to Su Shan. His eyes shone with sharpness. It's the rising sun. It seems that the rising sun can't help but make the first move. Of course, all the elites are watching. Someone must make the first move. Su Shan was beaten by Tianyan a few days ago, and the rising sun has been pursuing by Qi Shui. It's reasonable for him to make the first move. Finally, I can see what's so special about this Tianyan. In the 100 Treasure Pavilion, there was a lot of discussion. Everyone looked at Lu Ming with bright eyes. So, this is the rising sun. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. Tianyan, you finally dare to appear. Let's see where you can go today. Su Shan said coldly, staring at Lu Ming fiercely. That day, he was slapped twice by Lu Ming in public, and now he had become a joke. He hated Lu Ming to the core. What's wrong? Do you want your face to be swollen again? Lu Ming glanced at Su Shan, causing Su Shan's face to change, and he took a step back. Humph, Tianyan, I want to see what ability you have. How dare you hit my brother, move into Yunfeng residence, and become a Zongzi candidate? The rising sun stepped out. A blue light shone between his eyebrows, and a huge mental strength spread out. Do you want your face to be swollen too? Lu Ming looked at the rising sun. This made the rising sun's face turn ugly. An even more violent mental strength spread out from between his eyebrows, stirring up a mental strength storm in the hall. No fighting is allowed in the 100 Treasure Pavilion. Chapter 869. In the 100 Treasure Pavilion, an expert warned. Rising Sun's expression changed, and he quickly withdrew his mental strength. Tianyan, if you have the ability, go to the inscription battle arena and have a fair battle with me. Rising Sun stared at Lu Ming. The inscription battle arena was the place where the disciples of the Talisman Puppet sect competed. Not interested, Lu Ming said, and strode away. During this period, the 9 Dragons bloodline had been weak. Lu Ming was worried that there would be repercussions and had long wanted to try devouring the blood essence. Now that he had finally obtained the blood essence, he couldn't wait to go back and test it out. How could he be in the mood to compete on the inscription battle arena? If he could deal with it here, he wouldn't mind doing it. Lu Ming left the 100 Treasure Pavilion and flew directly to Cloud Peak residence. Humph, he's just a coward. What right does he have to become a Zongzi candidate? Rising Sun snorted when he saw Lu Ming leaving. Who knows how Tianyan managed to become a Zongzi candidate? He's clearly afraid of you, big brother, and doesn't dare to fight with you. Once you do, he'll give himself away. Su Shan sneered. In the main hall of the 100 Treasure Pavilion, others also shook their heads. They thought that Lu Ming didn't dare to compete with Rising Sunday, and such rumors spread throughout the Yinyang Mountain through the 100 Treasure Pavilion. After Lu Ming returned to Cloud Peak residence, he went straight to his room and sat down cross-legged. A jade bottle appeared in his hand. There were 9 pearl-like drops of demonic beast blood essence in it. Grade 6 LV, 6 demonic beast blood essence. With a thought, the 9 dragons bloodline emerged. 9 silver chakras appeared around the 9 dragons bloodline. However, the light was dim, and the 9 dragons' bloodline seemed to be weak. Lu Ming controlled the 9 dragons' bloodline and sucked the 9 drops of demonic beast blood essence into his mouth. He began to refine them. Slowly, as the power of the beast's blood was absorbed by the 9 dragons' bloodline, the 9 silver chakras became brighter and brighter. 2 hours later, the first blood essence was refined. Lu Ming took out a Class 6 LV, 6 demonic beasts blood essence, and refined it. In the blink of an eye, a day had passed. Lu Ming continuously refined more than 10 portions of the blood essence of the demonic beasts. Finally, the 9 dragons' bloodline regained its vigor. The 9 silver chakras shone brightly, and the speed of refining the blood essence also increased by a notch. Lu Ming continued refining. In the blink of an eye, another 3 days passed. In 4 days, Lu Ming had refined all 56th level grade blood essences, but his 9 dragons bloodline still hadn't reached the divine grade. What's going on? 50 blood essences of 6th level beasts are not enough for me to level up. I was able to reach the god realm before I devoured so much blood essences. But now, I've already devoured more blood essences than before. Why haven't I leveled up yet? Lu Ming furrowed his brows. He was worried that the 9 dragons' bloodline wouldn't level up because of the explosion of the chakras. That would be a great loss. Impossible. It must be because I haven't devoured enough blood essence. Keep devouring. Lu Ming gritted his teeth, took out a Class 7 LV6 demonic beast's blood essence, and continued to devour and refine it. The blood essence of a Class 7 LV6 demonic beast was 4 or 5 times thicker than that of a Class 6 LV6 demonic beast. Lu Ming continued to devour the blood essence. Lu Ming was so focused on refining the blood essence that he was oblivious to what was going on outside. In the past few days, Tianyun's name had spread like wildfire in Liangyi Mountain. On the second day of Lu Ming's closed-door cultivation, other geniuses ranked in the top 300 on the list of top 1,000 talents challenged Lu Ming. However, Lu Ming didn't accept the challenge. Subsequently, rumors about Lu Ming not daring to accept the challenge and that he was weak spread like wildfire. Some geniuses even went to Cloud Peak residence to challenge Lu Ming. However, Bai Qi Shui used the excuse that Lu Ming was in closed-door cultivation to activate the formation of Cloud Peak residence and turned Lu Ming away. Thus, the rumors that Lu Ming was cowardly and incompetent became even louder. Some people even suggested to the Elder Council that Lu Ming be stripped of his position as Zongzi candidate and move out of Cloud Peak residence. However, the suggestion was rejected. Many geniuses gritted their teeth and waited for Lu Ming to appear and defeat Lu Ming in public. Then, they would see if Lu Ming would still have the face to continue being a Zongzi candidate. Time passed day by day. In the blink of an eye, Lu Ming had been in closed-door cultivation for 7 days. Lu Ming had refined 10 more Class 7 LV6 blood essences. At this time, Lu Ming finally felt that the 9 dragons bloodline was about to evolve. This time, the amount of blood essence consumed is several times more than the previous time. Is this the aftereffect? However, as long as it can evolve, it's worth it. No matter how much blood essence is consumed, it's worth it. A smile appeared on Lu Ming's face. However, evolving the divine bloodline will cause too much of a commotion. I have to find a secret place to do so. I'll ask Bai Qi Shui if there's a secret place. Thinking of this, Lu Ming went out of the room and saw Bai Qi Shui frowning and in a daze. Qi Shui, why are you in a daze? Lu Ming walked over and said with a smile, "It's all because of you. During this period, everyone came to challenge you. You hid and cultivated, but I sent them all away." Bai Qi Shui glared at Lu Ming and pouted. Challenge me? I knew it. Lu Ming smiled. He had long known that many people would come to challenge him. It would be strange if they didn't. What's your plan? Are you going to go out and fight with them? Bai Qi Shui asked. I'm not free now. I have to go into seclusion for a while. When I come out, I'll deal with them together. Lu Ming said with a smile. Deal with them together? You're very confident. Among them, there are close to the top 100 geniuses. Although the Talisman Puppet Sect is not as strong as the Emperor God Divine Palace and the Heavenly Corpse Sect, there are still more than 30 geniuses ranked between 100 and 300 on the list of top 1,000 talents. These are all your opponents. Can you deal with them? Bai Qi Shui obviously didn't believe him. It's okay. Lu Ming smiled and asked, Is there a quieter place here where no one will disturb us? Where even if there is a commotion, there won't be a big impact on us? Yes, the Wind Marshal Cave. It's not very useful for the cultivation of the Way of Inscription, so very few people go there. Moreover, it's full of caves. Just pick one, and no one will know no matter how big the commotion is. Bai Qi Shui said, Okay, the Wind Marshal Cave it is. I'll go into seclusion for a while. After saying that, Lu Ming left Cloud Peak residence. According to the map, he turned into a beam of light and flew toward the Wind Marshal Cave. The Wind Marshal Cave was hundreds of thousands of miles away. With looming speed, he soon arrived. The Wind Marshal Cave was full of jagged rocks. Here, there were huge rocky mountains that were more than 10,000 meters high. There were huge caves on the mountains, and the wind was blowing out from each cave. Lu Ming rushed in, randomly chose a cave, and flew in. Although Lu Ming was fast, the news that he had entered the Wind Marshal Cave was still discovered by others. Soon, the news spread throughout Liangyi Mountain. Finally, Cloud Peak residence. Chapter 870. However, when they arrived at the Wind Marshal Cave, they all stopped outside. The Wind Marshal Cave was extremely wide and had thousands of caves. No one knew which cave Lu Ming had entered, so they could only wait outside. Lu Ming entered a cave and went deeper. What rich spiritual qi! Lu Ming's eyes flashed with surprise as he ran forward. The spiritual qi in the cave was extremely rich. However, the Talisman Puppet Sect mainly cultivated the Tao of inscription, and the spiritual qi was not very useful. Therefore, very few people came to the Wind Marshal Cave. Lu Ming came to an underground cave after tens of thousands of meters. Then Lu Ming waved his hands, and inscriptions entered the surroundings, setting up a large array. This large array was mainly used to isolate sound, so that when he broke through, there would be too much noise. After inscribing the large array, Lu Ming sat down cross-legged. Let's upgrade the 9 Dragons bloodline in one go. Lu Ming waved his hand. This time, he took out 10 portions of blood essence of level 7, level 6 demonic beasts. The 9 Dragons bloodline opened its mouth and roared. It devoured the 10 portions of blood essence and began to refine them. The rich power of blood essence continued to flow into the 9 Dragons bloodline. A day later, the 9 Suns bloodline roared to the sky. The roar of a dragon echoed in the cave, isolating the sound in the cave. Roar. The 9 Dragons bloodline's body continued to grow. Originally, the 9 Dragons bloodline had turned into a flood dragon with 4 dragon claws on its abdomen. But now, the 5th dragon claw stretched out. It had turned into the appearance of a real dragon. However, this was not the end. After the 5th dragon claw stretched out, the 6th dragon claw stretched out. Lu Ming's eyes widened in shock. The upgrade this time was different from the previous one. After the 6th dragon claw stretched out, the dragon roar became louder and the aura of the 9 Dragons bloodline became stronger. Roar. After the roar, the seventh dragon claw stretched out, followed by the eighth and ninth dragon claw. A total of 9 dragon claws. 9 dragons. Lu Ming's bloodline had turned into the legendary 9 dragons. The 9-clawed true dragon, also known as the 9 dragons, was a mutated true dragon. It was incomparably powerful, far surpassing ordinary true dragons. It was a unique existence between heaven and earth, and was also one of the top 10 beasts that Dandan spoke of. After exploding his chakra, the 9 dragons' bloodline had evolved into the form of 9 dragons. This was the complete bloodline of the 9 dragons. After a moment of shock, Lu Ming was ecstatic. The 9 dragons roared as the 9 silver chakras merged into a golden chakra. A powerful dragon aura spread out and shook the heavens and earth. However, Liangyi Mountain had an extremely powerful array that completely isolated the 9 dragons' auras. Those outside, Liangyi Mountain could not sense them. The power of devouring is several times stronger than when I was in my dragon form. Lu Ming sensed it and was overjoyed. He discovered that the devouring power of the 9 dragons was several times stronger than that of the true dragon form. This time, it was really a blessing in disguise. After his 9 dragons' bloodline exploded his chakra, he unexpectedly awakened the perfect 9 dragons form. Withdraw. With a thought, Lu Ming put away the 9 dragons' bloodline. He discovered that a stream of dragon power had condensed at his spine. I wonder what's the difference between this dragon force and the previous dragon force. Lu Ming pondered. Then, with a thought, the dragon force burst out. A layer of purple gold scales appeared on Lu Ming's skin. It covered Lu Ming's body like a suit of armor. It looked abnormally demonic. What a powerful force! Lu Ming was shocked. He felt that his body was full of power. Boom! He threw out a punch. The space quickly condensed into a ball of terrifying energy and blasted forward. Oh no! Lu Ming's face changed. He activated the 9 dragons' sky-stomping steps and appeared in front of the ball of energy in an instant. He threw out a punch and blocked it. Boom! With a loud bang, Lu Ming's body shook violently, and he took 8 steps back. So powerful, so powerful. Lu Ming was shocked. It was impossible to test it out here. Otherwise, the whole mountain would explode. However, Lu Ming could still feel the absolute power. This dragon force was definitely stronger than the previous one. It was at least several times stronger. When the dragon force burst out, Lu Ming's attack and defense would be greatly enhanced. The previous dragon force was the real dragon force. However, the current dragon force could be said to be the 9 dragons force. It was normal for it to be more powerful. Martial Emperor DE, you didn't expect that my exploding chakra would help me in the end. It allowed me to exert the power of the 9 dragons' bloodline to the extreme. Lu Ming's eyes shone brightly, and a smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. However, to transform into the 9 dragons form, I'm afraid that I'll need more essence blood. I still need 30 portions of Class 6 LV7 essence blood. I'll upgrade the prison-suppressing steel bloodline first. When the prison-suppressing steel bloodline is upgraded to Class 3 Divine level, I'll upgrade the 9 dragons bloodline. Thinking of this, Lu Ming took out more essence blood and started to devour it. After the upgrade of the 9 dragons bloodline, the devouring and refining power reached a terrifying level. The speed of refining the essence blood of the demonic beasts became faster. 30 portions of Class 6 LV7 essence blood were all refined in a few hours. Buzz! The prison-suppressing steel bloodline vibrated and shone brightly. 2 golden chakras shone brightly. Suddenly, a golden chakra appeared above the 2 golden chakras. 3 golden chakras and a Class 3 divine level bloodline. When the prison-suppressing steel bloodline was upgraded to Class 3 divine level, the power of the heaven-suppressing prison skill would also increase. It would reach the highest level of an upper demigod martial skill. Now that I'm using my full strength and the dragon force, how strong will my attack be? Lu Ming was looking forward to it. The prison-suppressing steel bloodline floated in the air. Lu Ming stepped on the ground and merged with the earth. What's this feeling? Lu Ming was shocked. He quickly closed his eyes and started to comprehend. Just now, when the prison-suppressing steel bloodline was upgraded, he was connected to the earth and suddenly felt something. This was a kind of inspiration. Some people said that it was a kind of enlightenment. It required a coincidence to capture this feeling and enter a mysterious state. Such a fortuitous encounter was hard to come by. Lu Ming closed his eyes. He seemed to sink into the depths of the earth and become one with it. He was the earth, and the earth was him. The earth was thick, vast vicissitudes of life. The earth was quiet and eternal. It could accommodate all things. It could suppress all things and bury the heavens and earth. This was an extremely powerful intent realm. Just like this, Lu Ming immersed himself in comprehending the intent realm. Time passed slowly. 1 day, 2 days. In the blink of an eye, 5 days had passed. Lu Ming immersed himself in comprehending the intent realm. It had been 5 days. His comprehension of the intent realm had increased by leaps and bounds. Not only did he break through to Class 2 greater success, but he was also approaching Class 2 greater perfection. 5 days was comparable to months of hard work. At this time, there was a sea of people outside the Wind Marshal Cave. Many sky prides had rushed here to wait for Lu Ming to come out. There were even more people who were here to watch the show. I'll wait here. Let's see how long this Lu Ming can hide.